gotta turn her chair around.
So guys, I appreciate you spending the time here with us today. Rob, gone back a little bit. It's been an interesting couple, three years coming up.
Been 3 years, 2.
2 years,
I
yeah.
think.
I love them.
Is that right now?
Maybe, maybe.
I know.
Yeah, because we were talking about how long you've been married now. So that's kind of the time. It just moves fast, so. Anyway, my name is Brian Wilbur. This is my lovely wife, Holly Wilbur. We are co-founders, and I've since divested and moved on to a different organization, but I'm here on behalf of Dora to teach this class. And so it's important that you know that we do operate in this space, and that we do have a boutique company. There's about 7 of us, just onboarded another one. And this is all we do, so don't call us with like any forward loans. I'm sure you've got preferred.
In other words, he's bingo reverse mortgage, but the seed creditor Dora.
That's correct.
Speaking for Dora.
That's correct. And as of 36 hours ago, we're also backed by Granite Bank to go nationwide as well.
Whoa.
So, which is a big deal, right? So, again, reverse mortgage is what we do, and I'm gonna tell you why as we kind of progress through this, but what do you guys hope to get from this class other than, you know, free lunch?
How we can make money.
That's what the most important thing is. I can help you guys take away. How can I give you guys some things you can actually go out and apply that make sense, that you feel safe, you understand? You're not gonna be an expert in this. It's taken me half a decade to become an expert in this, so you shut off your phones. No, if you need to pop out, restroom, anything like that, you're the timekeeper. Maybe 45 minutes, call for a break.
At 12:45 or 45 from now?
That's your call. That's your call. I do move pretty quickly, but if you have questions, let me know. But really, when you're sitting here, when you think of reverse mortgages, with a group this size, how many of you have positive things in your mind with regards to reverse mortgages? Anybody here? 1, 2, 3.
I'll do that.
4.
Yeah, I do that too.
That's cheating. That's cheating to the class. Right, and back there. It's usually about a 50-50. How about over here? Good. How about negative? Anybody heard negative?
I've heard negative.
Yeah.
Lots of people told me negative, yeah.
We learned a lot. We learned enough to be dangerous the last time.
So my job here isn't to give you a paradigm shift. That's a psychiatrist's job, right? My job's just to give you the facts, but I didn't wake up one day and just say, hey, Mom, I want to get into reverse mortgages. It sounds like an awesome space to get into. Although I did like Tom Selleck growing up. He was kind of an idol of mine, but I learned firsthand how this impacted my family and traveling with my grandparents. And so it's very personal, the impact that this can have, excuse me. So disclosures real quick. I'll tell you more about that story later. Everything here that you see is going to be for instructional purposes only, we would say, in the military. Any other vets here? Got another vet here, what branch?
Army?
Okay, you were quiet earlier when we were talking. That's interesting. All right. And then we've got another Marine over here, I know, as well. So for instructional purposes only, we're gonna do our best to keep these rates within the spaces of being realistic to where they are now. They're moving regularly, you understand that, how that works. It is a long class, we're gonna take lots of breaks. You're gonna get a download of every single slide that we have. So there'll be spots where you wanna write things down, and I'll tell you. It's kind of like the baby giraffe at the zoo. Everybody wants to take a photo of the screen at the same time. That's great. And write some stuff down, but you will get every one of these slides, which is nice later. When you leave and then you mention to somebody and they think you're, ripping off grandmas or something like that. A little something to back you up. Anyway, the best question though is the one that's deep down, that maybe you don't know if you want to ask, or I think we're in a room of people that know how to interact with other people. So I don't think anybody here is rooted in fear. So if you have a question, bring it up. Other people probably have it as well.
It said on there that your CE certificates will be mailed in 48 hours, but I have Allie on our team ready to send them while we're in this class. So did everyone sign in? Because I'm going to take a picture of this and Allie's going to start. Okay. So just want to make sure everyone gets their certificates while we're here.
Yeah.
In their box.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we talk a lot about perception and reality, especially in this day and age with technology. There's always something in our feed that's feeding something with perception and reality. When you look at this picture, raise your hand if you see an older, more mature woman here. Okay. How many of you see a younger woman?
I see both.
Okay.
Good point. Yeah, I have seen it too. I know it's not there.
Anybody go back and forth?
I
Ever
think I see them both.
Okay.
I can see both.
Anybody ever seen this before?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't remember the.
Where's the $1 million test where from? I'll give you the end of the class to think. No, I won't. But I'll give you about 10 more seconds. We do probably, I don't know, we try to do almost 2 of these a week in our peak season with a leader in education in this space. And so I get in front of hundreds of agents, both financial advisors, as well as like estate planners, as well as agents like yourself. And it's fascinating when it comes to perception and reality, how different and how split it can be. And it's almost always exactly the same. How many of you see a horse?
I see both.
Seen the
Yeah.
frog first.
That's a legged
Oh, I
horse.
just saw it
See a
now.
horse.
That's a good looking frog in a rugby.
Oh, yeah, I do.
horse.
Yeah, I see a frog though.
A lot of people have seen this before, right? What I'm trying to illustrate is even like, if you go and see a car accident, and you get 15, how many people we have here today? Is that, I think we have 14, 15, I'm not quite sure. You could get all these different perspectives of the accident and what happened, all right? So when you look at these types, this age demographic, and from a business perspective is what I'm talking about, is this a good class or demographic to niche in, to focus in from a business perspective? What's your
Yes.
opinion?
Yeah, definitely.
Why?
They got money.
That's a big piece of it.
And they need
Some
help.
of them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, in the last half decade of doing this, how this has not necessarily been front and center. People understand this now more because I think they understand how much wealth they control, 13 trillion. We'll talk about that. But they do need help. And let's talk about expectations for the class, all right? How many of you are working with any clients over the age of 62 now? Sure. When 62 is kind of older, it's not much, it's really not older anymore, you know what I mean? Everybody's living a lot longer, right? And what information do you guys hope to get from the class? Does anybody have anything specific? Sometimes we've got people that have a client that's over 62 right now. Maybe they're doing a cash purchase, or maybe they're doing some type of a purchase, and you're here to learn for that client about that. And sometimes you'll have those epiphanies along the way. Some of you will walk out with deer in the headlights. My job is to make sure it's not most of you, you know what I mean? But we'll be fun, and I want to make sure you get some lunch in here too. So feel free to grab that, and I can kind of talk down the hall here as well. So, I'm Brian, by the way.
Hi, I'm LJ, thank you.
LJ, good to meet you. What do you hope to take from the class? Throw you on the spot with low blood sugar. Yeah, I'll give you a pass on that one if you want.
I would just say, honestly, just get an understanding on, I wouldn't really say how to turn more deals, but just an understanding on how to help people first, but hopefully that translates into more deals.
I mean, that's the business we're in, right? At the end of the day, when you boil it down, right? We're the trusted advisor when it comes to this space. Right here, all of you, you're on the front lines. Opportunities for you guys, and let's talk about from a business perspective, because that's the biggest reason why this makes sense for you guys to understand this. Very few do, by the way. So you'd be setting yourself very much apart from other people. But they're simpler closings, they're easier, it either makes sense or it doesn't. He can attest to that. You look at the scenarios, it's just something you compare, like it either makes sense or it doesn't. There's really no gray area on it. Qualifications are simpler. It's great for right sizing or trading up. You'll be surprised, 40% of people are trading up, they're not trading down. So understand that. But it's a great way to increase your sphere of influence. We work with estate attorneys, a lot of financial advisors, Medicare specialists, things of that nature, because this is a holistic decision for a family to make. It's often kitchen table with the heirs, you know, with the children. They need to understand how this works because they have misconceptions. How many people think it's expensive or they've heard it's expensive? Wow, okay, that used to be number one. Okay, yeah, okay,
Everybody's whining.
That's actually valid, yeah, because we'll show, you've been through the class.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the cost benefit on that. How about the government wants to take your home or the bank wants to get your home? Okay, this is real talk here. We'll talk about myth versus fact. We'll talk about all the changes that happened that put me here. I wouldn't be here 10 years ago. There's so many changes in this, in the safety, in the product. It's not not your grandparents' reverse mortgage anymore, you know what I mean? So there's just a lot of things that have changed. It really is a financial tool, and I'm gonna show you guys how that works. Earning more commissions, specifically what I mean is, I don't know, Holly, back me up with these numbers, you're pretty in tune with this. I would say 20%. 20% of you are either gonna have a friend or family member, you're gonna have an aha moment. All right? You reach out to us, let us do what we need to do to kind of present the product. You're never gonna be an expert on it, but you're gonna wanna walk out here knowing how to sound like an expert and know what you're talking about, know it's safe. And that's the biggest thing. And if it's not safe, you need to know that too. Because there's risk to the product, and we're gonna talk about the pros and cons. But let's talk about aging demographics and why, although it's not for everyone should understand how this works. And you're kind of that front line for that when it comes to this product. By 2050, you can see there's gonna be a 48% increase. Listen, as a helicopter crew chief and the space you were in, anytime you see a 48% jump in anything,
Yeah.
you better start looking at that gauge or that data, right? So we started unpacking this locally. Holly's a big piece of this. She's been an advocate for this for, just about as long as I have. And she really did a deep dive into Colorado, and let's get specific. In Colorado, we're talking about a 125% increase. This is not people that live here. This is people whose kids live here. They're retiring and moving here. And so they're potentially bringing X amount of money, sometimes 250, sometimes 300, sometimes $350,000 looking for options. All right, it behoove you to understand at least how this works. Is it for everyone? Everybody not this way. Right? Should everybody understand it, right? Yeah. I do believe that. Yes, sir.
Are there any exceptions for age, let's say like terminally ill patients or anything like that?
No.
No.
No. This is a fully government insured product that has very rigid guidelines. And as long as you follow them, it works like a charm if it's the right solution. There are products for 55 and up. This is for 62 and up. Okay, so I would maybe write that down as your first note if you wanted to. 62 is the age that you want to look at this product. There are products 55 and up, and we'll jump into that. How many people think seniors are prepared for retirement right now? Raise your hand. I think we're all seeing people live longer and the cost, you don't know, over there. Yeah. It's a little young for some of us to be understanding this space right now, but a lot of us understand that during that crash in 08, that took a big hit on people at the wrong time. How many people here work with a financial planner? Okay. If you talk to your financial planner and you ask them, what's the most fragile years within your retirement? It's the first 5 years before you retire and the first 5 years after you go into a fixed income and you're living on your portfolio. That is the most fragile time right there. And that had a massive impact on people. We're seeing people live long, or not live longer, obviously, but they're ended up working longer than they want, oftentimes. Sometimes doing different jobs they don't want to do. Sometimes they just need a little bit more cash flow because of the cost of gas and inflation, right? But they didn't envision some of the restricted lifestyle and some of the other things that came along. I certainly don't think that they planned for this intentionally. They are looking for solutions. We know there's about 10 million Americans that are going into a fixed income situation with a mortgage payment still going on, sometimes into their 70s. They've been set up with 15, 30-year mortgages when they just didn't know there were anything specific for seniors that's geared 100% for seniors in every way. And if it makes sense, it's a wonderful tool. And if it doesn't make sense, it's super clear. They just don't even know that this is out there. Bill banking rates, anybody here a lender as well, or okay. You might be familiar with this aggregate. We do a lot of research with them. I'm gonna take a little drink here. Well, I'll let you guys read this. I like this because they follow the same group for multiple years, and they keep running the same survey with them. What's fascinating is if you get down to the end here.
Security.
This is the same group, 8 years later. How much do you currently have in savings? This is real talk. Almost 70% have less than $1,000 in savings. So these are people we know right now in our life, right? They got a nice car, they're making the car payment. They got a nice home, they're making the mortgage payment, you know what I mean? But things are tight, and depending on how their income is structured, they're more tight than other times, but you wouldn't know because you see them every single day. You're nodding your head. This is
Oh yeah, see it every day in the lending world, right? Like,
Absolutely.
You pull someone's credit, you see absolutely everything, and it's accurate.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. It's time to start thinking a little bit differently. Now, Social Security, annual income, obviously that's probably Social Security coming in right there. But their net worth, where's that? It's home equity, right?
Wow.
Once you turn 62, it's no longer called home equity. It's called housing wealth. Housing wealth. Start to tuck that in your mind. Over the next 72 months, it's 5 years, right? This is going to be mainstream. Every financial advisor out there is going to be required to flash this against their portfolio. And if you understand this language, it's managing sequence of risks, or returns, sequence of returns risk. It's fascinating. MIT, Cambridge University, Texas Tech was a big one. They all did the studies, and you can have an almost 400% benefit of the overall estate when they retire to the children by incorporating this. The studies are out there. I only speak in facts. Remember, I'm here on behalf of Dora, but I'll give you the MIT studies. It's quite fascinating. It's a big piece of why I jumped into this space. So we've got about, how many? About 12,000, 13,000 people turning 62 every single day right now. We don't know what's going on with, tariffs and inflation and elder care and all the costs associated. We're going to talk about some of that. 13 trillion in home equity. You better be focused on this. If you're serious about what you do for a living, they hold all the chips. That's the reality of it. There's going to be one of the greatest wealth transfers any country's ever seen over the next 25 years. I mean, you get it. You're in the space. 32% can't afford a $400 issue. I mean, I can't tell you how many clients call us up that have beautiful homes. Maybe they're paid off. Maybe they got a small mortgage left, and then their water heater goes out, or their AC goes out. There's 10 grand, however much it comes. Where's that coming from, right? Reverse mortgages in the news, excuse me. You can't really flip on any type of news channel and not hear something about it. It's becoming kind of a buzzword right now a little bit, all right? I'll play this Lester Holtz piece right here real quick. We all love Lester Holtz. I think he did finally retire this year, I'm not sure. But he's been around a long time. Yeah, no matter the politics, he's been around a long time.
We're back with a troubling fact of life for older Americans. Roughly half of people over 55 have little or no retirement savings. But consumer advocates now say that taking out a reverse mortgage could be a smart way to bring in more money. These loans used to be controversial, but as NBC's Olivia Stearns found out, they're now considered safer.
You've probably seen the ads on TV.
A reverse mortgage is a great program.
Promises to save big with a reverse mortgage, a loan that lets you borrow against the value of your house. Thanks to new government regulations, reverse mortgages are now actually harder to get. And with tougher lending standards in place, they're actually becoming less controversial and more popular. Still, experts warn they're not for everybody.
We love it. It's our dream home.
For Cheek and Kay Rothschild, though, a reverse mortgage was the solution to stay put. After 30 years and 4 kids, the Cartersville, Georgia couple couldn't imagine living anywhere else. But when the downturn hit, they couldn't afford to stay.
It was scary. It was devastating.
That's when they decided to get a reverse mortgage. Were you worried about the risks of getting a reverse mortgage?
Sure, we were concerned, but we did a lot of education.
What's changed? New limits on how much you can borrow, stricter requirements to qualify, and new protections for spouses. Borrowers still need to pay property taxes and home insurance, but experts say it is now safer.
I think reverse mortgages are going to be a lifeline for millions of retirees in the years to come, simply because they're undersaved for retirement.
The Rothschilds borrowed $250,000 in equity from their $440,000 house. If they sell or die, they only get what's left of their equity. The bonus, no more mortgage payments, means they're now saving $2,500 a month. For the Rothschilds, it all added up to a little more breathing room as they retired. Olivia Stearns, NBC News, Cartersville, Georgia.
So Rothschilds are hurting, though.
So it worked for them, is it for everyone? No, typically about anywhere from 40 to 60% of the people that are qualified for it, we actually see a benefit once they actually go through a benefit test, which they are required to do by law. But one of the best gifts, I don't want to say most because there's really kind of a pecking order. If you can take away this piece here, and then actually a gift that you gave us, I'm going to share with you in the hall later. If you can tuck these two things away as arrows in your quiver for down the road, it will help you so much, just from a mindset perspective, all right? We're not talking about having a conversation with anyone. It's just a mortgage. It's just a mortgage, just kind of, okay? And any mortgage, all right, can only be used in one of two ways, all right? You can refinance a current mortgage that you have. Okay, we all understand that. You could pull some money out, home equity, line of credit, or HELOC. Okay. Obviously, you could purchase a new home with a mortgage, right? That's the whole idea. A reverse mortgage, just like any other mortgage, works exactly the same way. And sometimes it is when you make things so simple that it's the best way to communicate it in a way that's effective, so that people can make the best decisions for themselves. Let's talk about this a little bit, okay? There's two programs, okay? In general, there are two programs. There's an FHA, government insured, extremely safe and protected, highly regulated product. All right, almost all of them are this FHA product. And this goes up to homes that are up to 1.2 million. And they update it every year. They keep upping it and upping it, okay? And the reason is home values are going up, right? And people are living longer, all right? Now compared to what it used to be, you can't pull out nearly as much as you could in the past, and that's one of the protections that came into place. We'll talk about that later too. But proprietary products, you call them jumbo products. These are private products. Here's the great part, they have to follow all the FHA rules, every one of them, okay? But you can actually go up to $10 million homes, and you can get in those products as early as 55. Not a very common product that we see because it's very expensive, but there are times when it makes sense, and that's our job, is to illustrate the times when it does make sense. So we have clients that are, they have a $500,000 total net worth, or $200,000 total net worth maybe, other than their home, all the way up to $50 million net worth. This is about managing tax brackets on the higher end. I'm giving you guys a 101 class, like a 101, all right? There's higher level ways of using it, but for most part, we're talking about the HECM reverse mortgage, the government insured product, okay? Sometimes you'll hear these called home equity conversion mortgages, because that's their real name. Reverse mortgages that's not even a term that really legally exists. So home equity conversion mortgage, AKA HECM, you'll hear that from time to time. Reverse mortgage, it's all the same thing, okay? From this point forward, I'm gonna do my best to just call them reverse mortgages. Just hit the messaging forward, straight on with it, is our opinion. Especially from a compliance perspective, all right? 4 common uses, and this is part of the criteria to see if it's even a fit. Whether you have a client that's doing a reverse for purchase, all right, and you had a little aha moment, you took a look at a couple links, did a little due diligence, and then introduced the conversation to Holly or one of our other great teammates over there, and we sit down and explain how it works. In order for us to even get near any of those points, we have to make sure it fits compatibility. Because what you're gonna see on the back end is there's a HUD counselor from the government that sits and listens, or goes through an hour and a half counseling with them and verifies everything we do. Safer, got rid of a lot of riffraff. There were some unscrupulous people in the past. Did some reverses, maybe not in the best interest of the client. Dumped them into movies, made money on both sides. There's always gonna be people that push the edges. The good news is it's a lot safer. But looking at these 4 different, criteria they need to hit for compatibility, the number one thing is managing longevity risk. Any advisor will tell you that's really one of the biggest focus. Will your money outlive you, or will you outlive your money? You stare at this long enough, what you'll see is if you're 94 there's a 50-50 chance if you're married, excuse me, if you're 60, normally I'm staring at the screen here, guys, I apologize. If you're 65 and married, right, there's a 50-50 chance one of you will live to 94. That's what I'm trying to illustrate there. Yeah. Well, think about that for a minute. I'm not even sure I want to live that long. You know what I mean? Somebody today, if they were retired at 62, all right, they'd have to come out of pocket somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 on average. Not everyone, but on average. Out of pocket, not covered by insurance. Where's this money coming from? Who has this tucked away somewhere? Hopefully, some people do. Some people bought long-term care or different insurances for it. Not many do. This is a 2017 study. We're waiting for the new facts to come out. It's closer to $500,000 per person in the U.S. Longevity risk. I'm not going to jump into details in this because we're going to use this client as a amortization as we go through. But here's a little sneak peek. If somebody's 62 years old and they own their home outright, no mortgage payment, $650,000. They took no cash at closing, all right? I'll explain all this later. But they're sitting in their home and their neighbor's sitting in an identical home and they're just gonna sit in this paid off home. The neighbor is gonna turn on a reverse mortgage line of credit. Holly would say, based on your age, interest rate, and the equity in your home, you qualify to put $243 into a line of credit. Think of it like a HELOC. Line of credit available drawn. This is required by law to grow 0.5% above the negative amortization rate. This is the secret sauce. This is the part that people don't know. The growing line of credit. Anybody ever heard of that with this product before?
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of it?
I have.
Got it. Tell me.
I only know enough to be dangerous, though. We
Yeah,
had a little
yeah.
class here, however long ago
You
that
got it.
was.
Yeah.
But up until then, it was, oh, they'll take my house. That's all I've ever heard.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of the hill we're taking, which is
Right.
perfect. It's
And then I
education.
tried to talk about it after the class, like even just to my husband, and I knew enough to be dangerous, so that's why I'm back. Yeah, I was like, yeah, it probably is a bad idea. Yeah, I didn't even know.
It's funny, we learned a lot from you and working with a couple of clients that you sent our way of how to phrase this. And I'll talk about that a little bit later because it is such a framing thing up front. And we'll talk about that. Here's what I want to show you though, real quick. Managing longevity risk. 2 homes, they're identical. We're going to sit in our paid off home. Next neighbor's going to open 243 in a growing line of credit. They don't touch it for 10 years. They just let it ride, just like this. That's grown to 420. No pun intended. 20 years down the road. It grows to 725. They haven't touched it. It's not an incredibly common scenario, but this is just to illustrate the power that could happen, right? 30 years of just sitting in the home paid off. This neighbor and this one over here, 30 years sitting in the home with no payment due either, just growing line of credit. It would grow to 1.2 million. This is tax-free money. Your numbers guy, ballpark, how much money do I have to create an income? Amount of 28% income back
1.2
in.
million over 30 years. What is that, like 80 grand, 70 grand? something
Yeah,
like
it's
that?
an outrageous amount of
Yeah,
money you'd
it's
have to
good.
generate in order to get that tax-free. This is the part people don't know. This is the part that advisors don't know.
This is not money in the bank, it's just available line of credit.
Yep. So you're gonna, what you'll see is you qualify based off of age, interest rate, and your home value. That will give you a number that you could put into the line of credit. You can see that you're gonna find, because of the beautiful MIP on the product and the protections, why it can never be reduced or canceled, and it's required to grow above that rate. Yeah, it's got it.
Is the growth off of appreciation, and how does this relate to the neighbor who didn't do this?
It's indexed to the SOFR. We're gonna jump right through that. As soon as it's literally a non-correlated buffer asset. Once it's set up, the home value could burn. Literally, the house could burn, have zero value. They cannot reduce that amount. They cannot reduce the growth. And I'll explain why. It's the MIP. We're probably one of the only lenders that will. I love the MIP on this product so much. Is it expensive? A little bit. It absolutely is, Rob. But we'll talk about whether it's worth it, and here's one of the reasons it is. All right. So let's talk about the second reason, right? It's either got to manage longevity risk, or it's got to provide guaranteed funds. What does that mean? All right. You could take this as a line of credit. You could take this as a monthly payment. Sometimes people that makes sense for them to have standard, consistent, guaranteed income for the rest of their lives. Sometimes, but the growing line of credit is the biggest value. And it's the overwhelming majority of them have that growing line of credit. All right? So like I mentioned earlier, homes are in LA, those 2 homes. They both burned, right? Next month comes. All that line of credit is still available, right? And everybody else on the block still has mortgage payments due. They don't have a home.
Wow.
That's real. That's real talk, folks.
So in other words, the government is forcing the lender to increase the value of the house, even though the house is burned out.
Yep.
Yep.
The MIP.
So you're still drawing from it no
Yeah.
matter what, and the government says your house is still growing even though.
Well, is it not the
Well,
house?
it's not the house, it's
the
actually,
amount of money.
it's the amount of money
The
indexed
amount
to
of
the
money,
SOFR
yes,
rate.
not the house.
You got it.
It's the value of the house as far as the lending side,
Theoretically.
theoretically.
In theory, because once you actually put it in the account, this is good conversation here, folks. We get asked this. Once you pull that money out, it's now indexed to its own market. That's independent of the housing value. Oh, wait, could happen, values could crash on the home. You still have the line of credit. How's that possible?
Because it's secure.
It's like a money market account.
A lot like that, or an insurance policy.
Yeah.
Cash value
Well, and
line.
so,
You got it. The MIP protects it. You got it.
so then let's say they need to start pulling from that and their house is still underwater like that. Then once they use all the money, then who gets the house?
Yeah, I mean,
Is it the bank? Does the bank get it after?
I mean, they get
after
the empty
Well, they would
lot.
have to sell the house
Yeah.
to pay off the mortgage when they die,
Yep.
Uh-huh.
right?
And they wouldn't
When they
get
die.
all of it.
So let's say the
Right,
heirs
but if
want
it's
the
not a
lot.
house, who cares?
Let's say the heirs want the lot, right? I don't know.
Right,
Because the
okay.
heirs remain in control of everything, just like any other mortgage.
Well, let's
But
say,
I got, I'm tracking here, go ahead.
let's say that you're not underwater. Let's just say it's just a regular scenario and you're getting older, maybe you pass away.
Yeah.
The house isn't worth as much, so obviously the mortgager or whoever issued the loan eats a difference if it's a negative difference. Is that right?
What happens is they file a claim with the FHA for the mortgage
Yeah.
insurance. And then they get reimbursed, so the lender is protected. And that is one of the most important pieces. How many of you know?
But what he's saying is the homeowner's not liable
No.
for that mortgage
Well-
if it's underwater.
You're not reliable for any difference of.
Or the
You
heirs.
can never.
Yeah,
or
well,
the
the
heirs.
heirs.
Heirs just don't get
Yeah.
it.
That wasn't always the way. It changed. And so now there are protections. The heirs can never be responsible either. It's the MIP, it's non-recourse. We've got a sharp class here.
Non-recourse,
Here.
that's huge.
I'm gonna grind really deep into this and you guys are gonna feel good. Break time, or we good?
No, it's still,
Okay.
Well,
So,
they're not-
the MIP that you put on there allows this to, excuse me, this is talking about the line of credit here. Guaranteed funds. All right. Track me here. It's got to manage longevity risk, or it's got to provide guaranteed funds, or it's got to extinguish your current mortgage payment. This is very common. Sometimes people just need the mortgage payment shut off. They've got a great portfolio. They've got assets that they plan on passing on to the heirs that far exceed the value of the home, especially if they use it strategically. According to MIT, it could be almost a 400% tax difference. Different story. But just turning off the mortgage payment can give a little grease in the retirement and the gears to just make it safe and smart. So you'd be surprised how many people just want that mortgage payment turned off, and that's the real benefit. This is why you guys are here. This is why I'm so excited for you, because those of you who understand this, go ahead.
can we go back to the interest, I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah.
The
Can I make a
amount,
commitment to
the
you?
growth.
Can I make a commitment to you?
Sure.
Because we're gonna walk in detail through it.
Okay,
And if you'd maybe give me,
sure, that's
I don't know,
fine.
10 minutes or so?
Yeah.
I think I can answer a lot of those questions there. You got me excited and I got a little ahead. I kind of made it, yeah. But I promise you to walk away with the right info. I'm giving you a quick overview here. So the 4 things, right? The last one is purchase appropriate home. This is gonna become very mainstream. This is, if you have somebody that's a cash buyer over 62, all right? You were one of the ways that illustrated this so well for us. Let's say they have a $800,000 home they wanna buy. They want to buy it with cash, and you simply ask them or tell them, hey, what would you think, or would you like to know more if you could just put down $600,000 and keep $200,000 in your pocket, have no mortgage payment? Would you want to know more about that? So if they have an $800,000 home, right, whatever your cash buyer has, the way that you, as a educated professional in your space would ask the question would be, if you could just put down 60%, keep the difference in your pocket, you had no mortgage payment.
So what happened to me is I had a client that had a CD. She wanted to buy a $500,000 home. And so she was gonna cash out the CD, and she was super stressed about buying this home cash and then not having any cash left in her CD, because her CD was making about $2,000 a month, right, in income. I said, why don't you just take $350,000 out of your CD, buy this house with a reverse purchase, and you'll never make a payment the rest of your life. Like you live till you're 155, you know, or whatever. And then you can keep 150 in your pocket. And she was like, oh, that sounds good.
Just don't even know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That is kind of wild to get in a house on the cheap. That's all
Yeah.
I'll say you
So
get.
instead of saying do a reverse, you know, anytime you start saying reverse mortgage, they freak out a little bit. I was just saying, why don't you keep 150,000 in your pocket?
There's a retirement mortgage company. Let me send you a couple of links. We've got links you send over to them, and honestly, they're like, you know what? No, just, you know, that's okay, and that's okay, because we're very much in the education space. It's natural, and honestly, they kind of probably need to see it a few times over the years to get comfortable. It's very natural. Sometimes they'll text you right back in the middle of the night and be like, what is this? What are we talking about here? Like, sometimes they get excited, so. Knowledge is power. We're gonna unpack this in detail. How are we doing on time? Need a little break, or we good?
It's a 1:45, but
Good?
What do we want?
Yeah,
Anyone want
you guys
seconds?
let me, anybody need a break real quick? Okay. Reverse mortgage success stories, let's jump in. Manage longevity risk. This is that chart I showed earlier. Let's do a deep dive on this couple. We've changed all the names, it's like a CSI show. Right? The scenario's the same, but the names are different. But Agnes and Alex, they're trying to age in place. They're in their forever home. Write this down, 5. You need to be in the home 5 years for this to make sense. Okay, that's kind of the break-even point financially for the costs.
mortgage.
Yeah, so if you're gonna move in the next 3 to 5 years, maybe this isn't the product for you, you know what I mean? But if you're gonna be there more than 5 years, that's about the break-even point. Tuck that away. Youngest borrower's age, 67. Why does that matter? We're always gonna go off the youngest borrower's age, because that's one of the criteria for how much you can pull out. It's one of the protections they put into place in the last decade, restricting more and more. Holly's gonna outlive me statistically by like 13 years, because I'm a little older than she is, so it's making sure that that non-borrowing spouse has protections as well. Let's talk about this. They are that situation. Their neighbors own the exact same home value. They're just gonna sit on their home paid off. It's the American dream. This is the drum they've been beating for 45 years. This doesn't change overnight. Their opinion on the house and the value, you know what I mean? And they all wanna give it to their kids. You know what I mean? And the kids are over there like, we're not gonna move all of our kids, all of our grandkids into this house when we die. We're not all moving into this house, all the children and brothers and sisters, we're selling the house, right? So they're holding on to this house to pass it to the kids. They're doing this growing standby line of credit here. Home value 625. Remember, there's no mortgage payment. They do expect the value of the home money, but to go up. And they're just gonna turn on that growing line of credit. This is a classic buffer asset. I've got a good portfolio, I've got a good plan, but am I maximizing all my resources? Well, the reality is this is what's called a lazy asset. It's not, it's appreciating, but are you taking advantage of what is usually about 60 to 70% of your net worth for some people? Usually they're not. But they've talked to one of you guys, they understand how this works. Holly's gonna run numbers based on their age, interest rate, value of the home. The reverse mortgage, starting loan starts at $20,890. How to get to that number? I'm gonna explain it here in just a moment. This is going to be an adjustable rate. Pro tip, any line of credit. Any line of credit's an adjustable rate, all right? You know, whether it's a HELOC or home equity line of credit, anything, all right? Standby line of credit, Holly's able to calculate, they could put 203.45 in that line of credit, all right? Growth on that product, let's look at this here real quick. How many people are getting 7.925% on their portfolio right now?
I think it's better to look at money market returns.
That's fair enough, yeah.
Because they're at like 3.5 right now.
Right. So when interest rates are higher like they are right now, you can see that's the interest rate, this is by law has to grow at a higher rate, the line of credit. Okay, and so the total closing costs on this product, remember Rob said earlier, he's been through the class before, it's expensive, the product. And that 5 years it can be, all right? And you gotta weigh it out. Total closing cost, $20,890. We're gonna talk about this in great detail and why it's so much. Now, we're in the business of typically boosting cash flow, so it's not realistic for people to have 20 grand usually laying around to come to closing. This is the starting loan balance, as you can see, okay? So this is a starting loan balance that's beginning to negatively amortize at that rate, all right? Let's talk about this in detail. What's out of pocket? You have a client, maybe they need it because dad's passed away and lost pension, a little more desperate, or maybe they're doing this because, you know, they're trying to buy an investment home and free up some money and do some different things, right? They're out of pocket about $1,000, maybe a little bit more. The appraisal costs, okay? And then HUD counseling, they gotta go through HUD counseling, right? That's an hour and a half on the phone with somebody from HUD, looks at all these numbers, looks at all their other assets, says, is there any smarter way for you to do this other than this? Not that this is a bad product, right? I laugh, you don't have to love reverse mortgages, you just have to love them more than taxes, if you know what I mean. So once they go through the counseling, they've gone through our compatibility, right? They've done, you know, their due diligence on the product themselves, hopefully. Then they've got an independent third party, all right, that'll do the counseling. And we'll talk about that more in a moment. But you can see the costs that are out of pocket. $200 for counseling, $800 appraisal fee, plus or minus about $1,000. These are all the costs that are built in and rolled into the starting balance of the loan. So let's go by line here. Document prep, $250, flood cert, $850, MIP, $12,500. Write this down, 2%. 2% of the home value is the MIP. Is it worth it? Well, we're going to talk about what that MIP provides. And that's where the judgment comes in for the family, for the estate attorney and the advisor, all right? Well, let's talk about origination fee. That's max. Used to be unregulated to some degree. You could charge pretty outrageous amounts. That's been capped as well at $6,000. The rest of the fees are pretty simple. This is rolled into the starting balance. And as you guys can see, that's the beginning balance here, all right? So let's talk about longevity risks, right? They've got a portfolio. Their neighbor's just gonna sit on their home that's paid off. All right, that's probably like 80% of the neighborhood their age, maybe. Their line of credit is growing. How can they use it? Well, whenever they want, however they want, there's no restrictions. This is tax-free income. It's important that you understand as some of us get older, it's what's called non-permissive income. It doesn't count against any of your benefits or any of your taxes or anything like that. It's true and pure tax-free income. How is that possible? It's a loan. It's a loan. There's no taxes on loans. You gotta know how to play the game. It's all about taxes. You tracking me? So travel, we have people that pull out money. I wanna help the grandkid that's actually hustling and doing their thing, not just on, you know, video games all the time. The one that's actually going to school or hustling, doing it. We wanna buy them a house or put a down payment. You know what I mean? Let's talk to the real estate agent. How do we build generational wealth? Oh, by the way, mom and dad or grandma and grandpa, they incurred no payment by unlocking that money for their heirs. We'll talk about how that works. These are things we see every day, all right? So their line of credit can never be canceled. There's no requirement to pay it back. The heirs, if scenarios came up, how you doing?
Good.
Good. All right. You got an idea on it? I love doing it, man. When I put this suit on,
Which one?
yeah, exactly.
The one I showed the police officer?
There you go. There's lunch in there too if you need.
Okay, cool, thank you so much.
I don't know how well you can see, but you got the screen over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no restrictions on how you can use it is my point, okay? We're gonna talk about that. This grid you're gonna get familiar with. I'm gonna use this over and over again in some case studies and some scenarios. So let me unpack this pretty detailed. Far side is the year of the loan, all right? The next column inside is the youngest borrower's age. We're always gonna go youngest borrower's age, all right? We're gonna run her age or his age out to age 99. All right, so we're gonna run the youngest borrower's age out to 99. Let's look at the short, mid, and long-term impacts like we would with any other financial tool, all right? Next block is the MIP paid. So we've got 2% up front, We understand $12,500 in MIP, all right? That's a one-time cost up front. There's an ongoing MIP, all right, of 0.05%. That's paid by the year. It's paid by the lender, but it is added into the loan. There's no free rides. So that $108 is added in that year into the $20,000-ish negative balance that's growing, all right? We also have accruing interest. Obviously, that loan balance is accruing. If you're not paying a mortgage payment, remember it's just a mortgage, it's paying you. It's either a forward mortgage or it's a reverse mortgage. I gotta get that dance move down, I think. So let's talk real numbers. Here's the annual growing loan balance, all right? Pro tip again, 7 to 12 years is the average lifespan of a reverse mortgage loan. Usually gonna either move or refinance, maybe sometimes more than once in that time frame. But moving is not uncommon, all right? So let's talk a little bit about the 5 and kind of 15 year, and then we'll walk this out. So we've got a line of credit going on here as well. Obviously, that's the whole point of what we're doing, right? Remember, they have no payment due. Their neighbor's sitting on their home paid off. They're sitting in their home paid off. They flip a switch. This line of credit's growing, tax-free. You know, home value's probably gonna go up, right? We're not in Missouri. You know, I love Missouri, we're from Missouri, I should probably not say that. So we use 4%, we try to stay fairly accurate and conservative here, we gotta factor that in. This last column here, guys, this is the walk-away equity, or what they would leave to the estate of their heirs if they left and when. This is what we show our clients and walk it out. This isn't, there's no hocus pocus, like, the beauty of numbers is they don't lie, right? And financial advisors will talk about why they don't know how to incorporate this and why they're still blind to this. There's compliance reasons that spook them. They have a lot to risk if they talk about this product in certain ways still. But this is the numbers that people need to look at and need to see. Because you can just put them side by side and say, hey, we stay here for X amount of time. We stay here for 15 years. We've got a $1.125 million line of credit that can never be canceled, reduced. It's growing at 7+%, and I can draw on it. And it doesn't count against any of my other benefits or taxes or anything. All right. Let's look at a more realistic scenario. Okay, because how often are you gonna have somebody set that up and not touch it? Yeah.
So can they never pull from it and just pay the origination fees?
Yes.
Okay.
They could do it, yes. So very high net worth people, this is just one more just a switch that they pull on. This, what I'm about to show you, is what is more common. This is showing somebody 5 years down the road, they pull out $35,000. What might somebody pull out $35,000 for in retirement?
Car.
Car.
Yeah, homeowners insurance.
Yeah.
For the next
Yeah.
next 6 months.
Yeah, 5 years, we might be there.
Got clients up in Boulder, old timey homes, some of those big
Oh, yeah.
outrageous values that just seem to be impervious to the market, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're doing this just for taxes and insurance. You get it on
Yeah.
that. 5 years after that, they pull out 45 grand, maybe help out a grandkid with some student loans. Then they pull out 80 grand. All the grandbabies are out of diapers. Maybe we're doing some type of Disney cruise, or like one of those big lifetime trips, right? Because quality of life, you gotta think about the go-go years, the no-go years, the slow years. There's a lot to incorporate in this. But this is a far more realistic scenario of about $500,000, a little less, drawn out of this tax-free bucket of money I can touch. The kids still own the home and the title and keep all the difference in the home value. I can draw on it however I like. And there's still walk-away equity and pass on inheritance. By the way, they've had no payment on this whatsoever. What's the HELOC start at, rate-wise right now?
Well, 10.5.
Yeah,
Well,
and you got a
maybe
payment,
a little bit.
plus the mortgage
Right.
payment. It's all about the net at the end, right? Does it make sense for everyone? No. About 40 to 60%.
Doesn't it make sense?
So in this scenario,
You come in late with questions, though?
yeah, I know. I'm sure you've already covered this, but for those of them that weren't paying attention.
Right.
So this scenario, 71 years old, the balance, the loan balance has gone up 65,000, which makes sense. The line of credit is now 292, so that they can take 292 and
If they want to take too many,
Yeah,
yes.
they can cash it out at any point.
Right,
Or just go against what the walkaway equity would
Yep.
be.
yeah.
We'll go against the walkaway equity, right?
And the walkaway equity is based on 4% appreciation a year.
Well, that's
No.
hypothetical. It's based on whatever the actual value
Right,
is at the
right.
time.
But
this
that-
is
but
what we're
this number is-
projecting.
yeah.
You got it, yep. And
So-
so it's just a mortgage.
In Colorado, it's probably more.
But
And
instead
this
of-
part
On behalf of
Colorado,
Dora, I want you to think 4%.
4%.
Because that makes everybody safe with our clients.
Right.
They're a lot happier down the road, and that's what this industry needs. They need happier clients. I want people getting involved and like be wowed. So we use 4%. Remember, I'm here on behalf of Dora, so it's
Yeah.
incredibly important
Right.
that I walk that line because it's very important. All right.
That's the national average, so that's why we use it.
Right.
But we did a class in Pueblo and they were saying it's like 3%.
Oh yeah, they blow me up and they're like,
So it's
4%.
interesting.
We have 4%.
Yeah.
It's very relative, yeah. We try to stay real conservative though. So wherever you draw out the money or sell the home or pull out the money, whatever, or move, whatever the loan balance is, you pay it off just like any other mortgage. If they pass away at any point or gift it to their kid, whatever the scenario is, they just pay off the loan balance, the heirs keep control of the home.
And again, it's not only the origination fee, but it's 0.05%
Per month. That's
off of what's taken the withdrawals.
The loan amount.
The loan
Oh, just
amount.
the whole loan amount.
Yeah.
Yep. So I want to be clear on that, yep. So this right here is paid per year, that column. MIP paid by lender, that's paid per year, not monthly, but per year. That's being tacked on to the balance, there's no free rides.
Yes.
Okay, and then it's negatively amortizing, all right? That's why it's the net. We can look at all the money trickles this way and the money trickles this way, and then it goes over here to this bucket, and your advisors do that. I want to know what the bucket is at the end, and that's the impact you gotta look at, so. Does it always make sense? No, not necessarily. Hard to argue if you had a home paid off, so, go ahead.
On that other screen, from year 1 to 5, the growing loan balance goes from 22,000 to 65,000. And that's before they made any withdrawal, or is that include the
They took
withdrawal?
35
That's
out.
That's after
including
the 35,000,
Yep.
okay.
So one of the cool things about this, I don't want to nerd out, but it's bi-directional, so the line of credit's not like, well, you got one shot at it, spend it how you like. You need it, you withdraw out of it, the loan balance goes up. In strategic years, maybe with a tax advantage year, you might make a payment on that interest and knock it down, and the line of credit's immediately available. So it's bi-directional, you pay down the balance, this is a little advanced, I know, but if you pay down the balance in smart ways, that money's immediately available, liquidity growing in the line of credit. It's a fascinating component of it. It's what blew up MIT, and it changed in 2013 with the FINRA, the Financial Insurance National Regulatory Association, until 2013, this was last resort. You deplete your portfolio, everything, first, then this is last resort. And then the studies started getting run by Texas Tech, MIT, and it's not true. Coordinating this in down years, so you don't cash in that CD, choke the horse you're riding. You know, you're getting $2,000 a month from that. Why would you want to let go of that?
Right.
Preserve that asset, keep that.
Right.
That's the shift, all right? Did that answer your question? Do we need a break? Is it-
I guess, I guess you could.
That's a guess question.
That's what you do.
You take it all out, so put it in the investment.
You're gonna pay taxes.
I'm gonna jump into this, folks, real quick.
Yeah.
Well,
I know we got a lot of
it's just
sides.
how does the
Right.
mortgage company
is only releasing,
Ready? Yeah, we're moving through that.
that's only releasing more equity.
All right, let's talk about Margaret here.
Yes, yes.
This is her name's changed, remember, but these are client scenarios we see all the time. She's 72. She just needs a little bit more cash per month is the goal. Holly. Guys, if you guys-
Oh my gosh. Whoa!
I'll pay for that later, but trust me, you guys-
I was pointing at.
Yes, ma'am. There, take my Red Bull. She's 72. Her husband passed away, so she lost a big piece of his Social Security. She got a piece of it, but dropped some income there. Lost his pension. All right? She was driving from one town to the next, like picking up a little girl to go do dance on Thursdays. Now drop these finances, costs are going up, insurance, taxes, inflation, eggs. Anybody notice that, right? We got a call from the children. Not from Mike, from the children. He said, hey, here's a scenario. Does this make sense? Is this something we should take a look at? The goal was simply to shut off her mortgage payment. That's really the goal. So her home was $600,000, still had about a $75,000 mortgage balance. Her payment's only about $380. We're not talking about a huge amount of money here, okay? But sometimes that is the buffer that can be a quality of life thing that's not as significant. So the goal is just shut off that mortgage payment. The kids had no idea what Holly was able to show them. So based on age, interest rate, okay? Her loan was able to be structured in such a way to where she was able to receive $932 every single month, tax-free, for the rest of her life. In addition to that, obviously, we'll talk about the compounding benefit, but her loan started off at $95,390. Have we come to that number? We're gonna pay off that first balance, right? We're gonna add in closing costs. We know the closing costs are about $21,000 or so. All right, we know that's MIP and all the protections. We're gonna talk more about that, but that's just the compounding balance. It's not out of pocket, but there are HUD counseling and appraisal. You can see the compounding benefit. Not only did we cash flow to $932, but she doesn't have that mortgage payment either. So that's $380 compounded. What would it take?
So with this, no mortgage, and she's gonna get $932 a month.
Yeah, which is a compounding effect of $1,300 tax-free per month. What would she have to net, pay taxes on in order to net that? Where's that coming from?
The rate, is that prime plus something, you said it's variable, right?
Yes.
Do people qualify for that?
On, Holly, how would you answer
Credit-based or
that?
what?
No. We are gonna pull credit just to make sure that they're paying their bills and they're safe. Make sure they need to set aside for taxes and stuff, right? We'll talk about that. But there's no credit qualifications because there's no payment due, right? So there's no DTI, all right? So the qualifications, the rate, how do we get to the rate? How would you
So
explain it?
each HECM lender has access to the same rates. We do have margins, so we can be more competitive, so that's the advantage of working with the broker, is to be competitive on the rate, which is, the more money the borrower can get out, the lower the interest rate. So, it's not based on their credit or anything, everyone has access to the same rates, and they are capped at 5% above. So this would be capped at 11.7%. So they do have a cap on them, which is good.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm gonna get a little bit more in detail here in a minute. Remember that she's out of pocket for the appraisal, all right? And for HUD counseling, okay? But somewhat of an impact in her life, if you can imagine. Well, let's talk about where the rubber needs to go. It can look good. Is this really in the best interest? What are we trying to achieve long-term? What are her goals with her heirs? How is she wanting to pass down the home, right? A lot of factors to look at. But you guys are familiar with these numbers. We can see the accruing balance of interest as well as the MIP that's ongoing being paid. So we got a loan balance that's continuing to grow. How long is she gonna stay there? Somebody give me an age. How long might she?
95.
Well, let's say she stays at 95. As you guys can see here in the numbers.
I'll say 96 to make it easy.
Or you can get more of that marine math. But let's say she did stay out there to 95, and absolutely, I mean, if you can imagine how many years is that, you guys are looking at the screen. There's no,
25 years.
not only no payment, but $1,300 a month for all those years. How much would she have left or walk away equity? You can see on the front end. And this is where we talk to the kids. What's the long-term goal? How long do they really want to stay in the home? Maybe she does stay to 95. Typically, it's about 12 years, but before she usually reverses for purchase into something smaller is what we really see often. But everybody's a little different. Questions on this? All right.
I'm sure you've gone over this already, but what's the most that you can get on it, the first percentage of the value?
Right, so it goes by age, equity, and interest rate, right? At the very most, you're probably gonna get, what, like 43%? I think it's about max you're gonna get access to.
Yeah, some of our 90-year-olds get 50% access.
I mean, back in the 80s, you could fog a mirror and pull out 80%, take a Blackhawk and blow it.
How much
within
they can
hours.
actually take?
It was kind of scary.
Yeah.
So they put a lot of restrictions on it,
So
which,
about 43 for,
that's about max.
62-year-olds.
Yeah.
now, and that's done with an appraisal?
Yeah, it goes
Or
up.
can I just go off of the value that my wife says it
No,
goes?
it's a- That's what you do.
It's like $1.8 million.
But let's take a look at just extinguishing a mortgage payment, right? We gotta manage longevity risk, we gotta provide guaranteed funds, okay? Or it's gotta just extinguish a mortgage payment. In this scenario here, we've got Edith and Fred, they're wanting to do a little bit of travel. They do have a pretty strong portfolio set up, but they'd rather not cash them out. Why not?
Taxes.
Taxes, fees, taxes, you're hearing a mantra here. You don't have to love reverse mortgages. You don't have to. And they're not for everyone. You just have to like them a little more than taxes. And I'll put interest rates against taxes all day, every day. So in their scenario here, they got an 875 home, they got a small mortgage balance. All right, we're going off her age is 65, super young, they want to do a little travel. All right, their principal interest payment's 635. All right, goal, we're just gonna try to eliminate the mortgage payment, and let's see how much, based on our young age, we could get it closing. All right, we're gonna go have some fun with it. Used to say that was enough kind of travel, for a little bit, yeah. When you don't have that mandatory mortgage payment, you got that housing security. Sometimes it gives a peace of mind. It's a funny thing when you're driving down the road, spending all this gas money, right? Their balance starts off at the numbers you can see here. Now in their scenario, I think they did do a fixed rate. So there's fixed and adjustable. We'll go through and decide and help your clients decide which is best. There's variables on it. Line of credit's almost, it's gonna be variable though, or adjustable, right? Total closing costs, almost $26,000. It's all that MIP. That's the big cost. Is it worth it? How many people have insurance on their house or their car or kids? You tell me. That's a personal decision, right? It's not out of pocket. It's the going into loan balance. They were able to get what? Shut off their mortgage payment and the cash flow $7,600 or something a year, plus the 25. We're not changing tax bracket too. It's a little buffer asset, right? And every time they come back home, they don't have a mortgage payment hitting every month. All right. Let's look at their scenario here. How long they hitting the road for? How long the RV for?
A year.
A year?
5 years.
Hopefully it's at least 5.
A week.
But if you want to hit the road, maybe, I don't know, short-term rental your home out while you're gone. I mean, this is where you guys start thinking outside the box here, especially from a tax perspective. Will you tracking me here?
What's the minimum they have to live in the property?
Primary residence. It's got to be 6 months in a day, primary residence.
Okay.
6 months in a day. We're going to unpack that. Yep, great question. But you can see in these numbers here, I don't know, maybe they hit the road for my grandparents, and one of the big reasons I got into this was RV trips. They went up in Alaska all over, my sister and I. I had no idea how they were able to do this. They got hit hard by 08, but it was far younger than that, you know, we were able to do some travel. And they didn't personally have a reverse mortgage, but as I got older and I got in tune with their financial advisors, their belief in the product has made such an impact in people's lives, and it was a piece of why I was able to experience that. So however many years you want to say, they go for 5 years, you can see they still have a significant amount of money left over. So is there a cost to it? Absolutely. There's a negative amortization if you're not paying it, but if it's paying you, there's a quality of life component as well.
I can't see Clint Eastwood wanting a reverse.
Yeah, he's more of a class A type guy.
Yeah, right.
And he's not driving.
That's right.
It's that orangutan.
That's right.
That's driving.
Every which way
to lose.
I got
Yeah, orangutans are scary. You're gonna start seeing a mantra I'm gonna start beating from this point forward, because it gets a little old if I start doing it right from the beginning. But there's really a handful of things you have to do, rules you gotta follow. Primary residence, we'll talk about that in a minute. You gotta pay your taxes. That surprises anyone? No? Anybody have a mortgage right now? What happens if you don't pay your taxes? It's a problem.
Put a lien on my house.
Your services are gonna pay it for you anyways.
They're gonna pay it, yeah.
Well, that's
First you
true.
got
If
it.
you have a
So,
mortgage, they'll
But
pay
not
it
that.
for you.
Yeah,
But
you gotta
not-
maintain the home. Yeah. All right, so you gotta maintain the home like any other loan, right? If you don't cut your grass, the lender's gonna get called by the county. The lender's gonna send somebody out there to cut it. They're gonna stay in compliance, they're gonna try to figure it out and whatnot. HOA fees, don't mess with HOAs. They're completely unregulated. They are the most powerful entity out there, to my knowledge. And then, what did we talk about? Taxes, HOA fees.
It sure seems like it.
And insure the home, right? Like anything else, you gotta insure the home. Maintain those things, and then you can stay in the home until you no longer want to or no longer can. All right? Hint, hint, there's a test at the end, and those things could be on it. It's
Oh my
open. Purchase appropriate home. This is why we're here right now. Everything I've showed you so far is giving you foundation. If you have scenarios of things you want to run by Holly, that's great. We'd love to serve you. Some of you are going to have your eyes open. This is what's going to make you a professional in the next 5 years. Separate yourself. And I'll tell you why. All right? Let me give you a quick example here of Gladys and Clarence. They want a right size to their dream home. All right? Now, she's 68, or maybe they're both 68, I can't quite remember. Net sale of their home that they have paid off right now is $500. All right. New home price is $725. Now, their financial advisor said no mortgage payment. That doesn't fit into your portfolio withdrawal plan, right? So what's their scenario? For a one-time cash investment, a one-time down payment of $481 from the sale of the proceeds of their home that they currently own. They're gonna finance the balance into the reverse mortgage. There's no payment due on this product. The loan costs, we understand that's rolled into the loan as well. They're gonna pay for counseling, make sure it's safe and smart for them, right? An appraisal. In this scenario, they're able to take $18,000 in their pocket, ballpark, I believe, almost $19,000. They have no mortgage payment. Maybe they're living in a home they shouldn't.
$750,000 one.
Yeah. So, if at any point they wanted to start making payments, they could, and there could be techniques to that. But for some people, this is the plan. Like, they're gonna work on their assets, let them do their thing, stay in this nicer home, and have the kids over every year for Thanksgiving.
Or main level living, or anything like that.
Multi-generational living, all sorts of options, yeah. All sorts of options, yeah. Renting out, short-term rental. I mean, it's quite interesting when you start to dive into these scenarios. ChatGPT, it's not always accurate on everything. I challenge any of you to have some fun. Don't stay up till midnight. Don't text Holly at 1 a.m. But go into ChatGPT and start talking about how can I maximize my overall portfolio withdrawals by using a reverse mortgage, like growing line of credit. Put in your age, the numbers, just let it run. The numbers, one thing ChatGPT does well is math, as opposed to maybe the Marines, right? I'm not saying it's 100% accurate, but use that as a resource. Have fun and play with it, because it's quite fascinating. So let's look at the loan balance that's growing with this couple, right? How long are they gonna stay here? I think they wanna stay here long term. Let's say they stay there quite a while, all right? Appreciation on the home is going up. Walkaway equity or pass on inheritance. They stayed there 32 years. 32 years and no mortgage payment every month. There'd be zero equity left in the home after that point. And we picked this number specifically, as you can see, because we want to illustrate, like, if you're not making a payment, the negative equity does amortize. Now, my question for you is this a good move for them to do? How could we know? Until we sat down and saw what are the plans? What do the kids want to do at home? How's their portfolio set up? Does this keep them from cannibalizing their portfolio and 3 times more money because they had an advisor who knew how to use this in down markets? I have no idea. But even if they just stayed there and it's quality of life, that's kind of a judgment
Do they
call.
still get to stay in the home after it's zero?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Let's say hypothetically something wacky happens and, I don't know, home values crash like 08 right here, and it just negatively amortizes. Just, ooh. Nobody's responsible for the negative amortization because the MIP protects the heirs, protects the homeowners, all right? Big deal, right? So they can't go after the estate. And you're never responsible for that because of that MIP, all right? I know we're a little behind. I've got some scenarios on the back end we could probably pull to catch up. All kinds of different products. There are jumbo products, proprietary products. The big difference is they go up to 10 million. Why would somebody with a $10 million home want to do a reverse mortgage? Well, the more money you have, the bigger bills you have. I've got colleagues who've had people call in with a $10 million home paid off. I think they were rehabbing a motel or something, or a hotel. They were capped, they didn't have any liquidity. But they got hit with like a $7 million capital gains bill. Yeah, Northern California. When you have bills like that, like, you gotta get a solution going. So they called my colleague, said, $10 million home, I need to pull out $7 million. I gotta pay this capital gains bill, right? He said, do I qualify? He said, no, you don't. Qualify for about $4.5 million. So he made a payment to the IRS, set up a payment plan for the rest. His only option, pull out $15 million from his qualified account in Northern California to net 7.2.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I've got clients with $50,000 worth in value up to $50 million. This is not a solution for just people who are destitute by any means. All right. Biggest difference here too is 55. You can start looking at this product as early as 55. That's a big difference. okay? There's no MIP. There's no MIP on this product. No
You're on a
free.
whole different product now?
Yeah, like
Whole
I
different
just got lost.
Yeah, I did
Okay.
too.
Did I lose you guys here? I'm
That's
sorry.
for the over 10 million, or
This is the end of,
the $10 million.
okay, I apologize. I'm having a little hard time seeing that screen standing over here, so thanks for keeping me on track. We're talking about jumbo products. Everything we've
Okay.
talked about so far has been the FHA product, okay? And I'm gonna do a deep dive on it a little more.
And this was like 1.2 million plus?
Yes.
Yes.
And over 95% of all of them are that FHA
Okay.
line of credit. You got it, yeah.
I've had to use the proprietary products on condos that FHA won't approve.
Wow.
Which is
Wow.
a huge deal right now because condos are having a huge problem having enough reserves in their accounts.
This is life
And so I've had specifically in Denver condos where they couldn't do the FHA HECM reverse mortgage, and so I used this to still get the client into their condo. So,
Wow.
We got a bunch of those.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we should talk because this is a sneak around.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to, with the MIP, sometimes it can be more attractive. The interest rates are higher on this product. There's no free lunch, right? The interest rates are higher.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna talk about this here, okay? It has all the same protections as the FHA product too. That's part of the benefits of this being a protected group of people. There's no product that's more regulated financially than this. We're dealing with a protected group of people with oftentimes their largest asset. There's horror stories from the past of people that got hurt because spouses weren't put on the loan, things of that nature. There's just been so many protections that have changed. It's just a different product, and I'm very proud to be here. All right, let's talk about this.
I'm sorry, still owner occupied?
Yes, it's primary residence.
Yes, primary residence, yep. So we got a client here, this is gonna be fun reading, and there we go. Carol and Robert here, they're both age 70 here. They've done well with their businesses, they've got some discretionary income, but they're just trying to increase it slightly. All right, home value's 3.5 million. Anybody in the luxury market right now? What's luxury, by the way? That's changed so much in the last 15 years, right? But sometimes you're gonna run into people in this scenario, all right? In their situation here, okay, their goal was to just shut off their mortgage payment, all right, which was $52.98 a month. They have no mandatory payments, all right? And so this is just about cash flowing, a little extra cash flow per month for this scenario. You gotta cover certain things on behalf of Dora, so bear with me here. I know this is probably not necessarily things you're seeing every day. Two different options here with their rates. They can go fixed or adjustable. $3.5 million home. Principal limit is a fancy word for how much she says they're qualified to pull out. Origination fees can go up on these products. These are jumbo products, all right? So origination can go up quite a bit. It's capped at $6,000 for the HECM. Very important. That was a big change, all right? We're gonna pay off any existing liens. And you guys can see there's no MIP required, no payment required on this product. This is often with high net worth individuals, it's a short-term solution. It's kind of, think of it as like a bridge between maybe some tax advantaged years or how we're pulling out money from our IRA or doing a Roth conversion, things of that nature, maybe investing in a property or a business. Long-term, because the rates are so much more, it can be expensive. And so you don't see a whole lot of these. We see a lot more like condos, lower values than we do high value necessarily. But you can see with this product, if they were to stay in this position for 10, 25, 29 years, around, what is it, the 20-year mark, they would actually go to a net even position if they stayed in it. Now, how often do they typically stay in a product like this? Hopefully not that long, but this is where you unpack it and they're like, what? This does not even make sense. So they're like, okay, yeah, we need this for 5 years and this is saving X amount on tax income over here and we have no payment due, and then they start looking at other options. Just, it should be in the mix to be responsible.
They had a client in Bennett, Colorado, they did a custom home, and it was a $2.5 million home, and they're trying to sell it, and they can't sell it, and they spent too much money building it, so this was their only option. And it was, and so this, they were my client 2 years ago, and they're still there, house still hasn't
Still can't
sold,
sell
been
it.
on the market over 2 years. There's no postal service, it's dirt roads, like it's very, very, very custom.
How much was their
And,
mortgage payment? Do you remember?
So they still have a $500,000 loan on the property that was refinanced. invest into.
Does Amazon?
No,
do that?
Amazon don't.
Oh, forget it.
Yes, exactly. And so they're having a very difficult time.
That's why they can't sell it.
So this comes into handy, this product comes in handy for certain situations.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yep.
sound owner occupied. Is it empty, you said?
No, they live there.
live there.
Oh, they love their house.
Oh, they're just
It's
trying to
their
sell it
dream
over and over.
home, but they would like, you know, they've tried,
They
they
went
want
over
to
on
get.
budget and the home, you know, it's.
Yeah.
Not
their
all
mortgage
trees are
payment
good.
is just hemorrhaging.
Yeah.
down.
But with this,
Some are bad
but with this
dreams.
product though, they can stay in it till the day that they pass away.
They could,
Yes.
and that's honestly the decision. They're like on the fence right now. We're in this.
Yep.
And like no matter what, we get to stay in this home, we'll never have
Yeah.
a payment due, or do we want to sell it or do
Their other
something?
option's
So-
foreclosure, you know?
Right,
And
I
then
mean,
they
that's
lose
the
it
reality
anyway.
of it, yeah.
That brings up a question about the interest rate. When it's
Yeah.
fixed, what's the term? The term of the loan.
Oh.
So they're all 150 years old.
Yeah.
Oh, got it.
Yep,
Yes.
yep,
Got it.
Yeah.
So,
All
but there are
reverse
some
mortgages go
breakthroughs,
to
people
150.
living longer, so that could be a problem down the road.
So it's an age term, not a
150?
time,
Wow.
length of time
Yes.
term.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about some,
God, I hope not.
I have an aunt on social security and she's 350 years old.
I know her.
I think I saw her name on the Doge website.
Oh yeah, she's on the news.
She drives that Tesla out there. The biggest takeaway is this: don't call Tom Selleck and get, 25-year-olds in a call center. All right, they're not going to know how to wield this product, and if you don't, let me tell you, you could break some hearts long term, because if they don't understand all the different options, it's just incredibly important that they understand somebody who specializes in this.
Totally.
All right, but this is how people are using it, guys. Roth conversions. You imagine, anybody here understand Roth conversions? Okay, you got money, it's been growing, tax deferred, IRA, 401k, things of that nature. You're gonna bring it over to a Roth. Should everyone do that? I don't know, talk to your advisor, not necessarily, but some people should. When you convert it to a Roth, which is tax-free, you gotta pay the tax man at whatever your income rate is right then. Imagine the compounding benefit of using your reverse mortgage line of credit to pay the taxes. Convert the whole portfolio. What does that do over 10 years? This is why this is going to become mainstream. It's because of MIT and some Texas Tech stuff. I guess Texas Tech is number one. They're the authority when it comes to financial advising, these Monte Carlo simulations. It's quite interesting how things have changed. So, postpone retirement. How about just delay Social Security? That's like a 40% benefit if you delay Social Security.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right? And now we're just playing with money, folks, if you don't know how to use this.
So you're saying that someone's using this, right, and then they're actually putting that into their Roth IRA, so they're taking from here, right?
No, it
Or
would
no?
be they've got an IRA. Let's say they got $1 million IRA and they need to convert it. You
Right.
have required amount
Oh,
of
yeah,
time.
you gotta pay the tax.
The RMDs are coming up. You got to withdraw strategically and pull it through either into your accounts or pull it into a Roth that grows tax free.
Yep.
When you do that, it's ordinary income. 25, 26, 30, whatever percent you are. That cannibalizes that account. I mean, $1 million IRA just turned into a 7.
Sorry, it's me.
What's the compound benefit of paying the
Water in the wall. Yeah.
tax? It's
Right.
huge. It's huge. And advisors don't know how to wield it. And it's not their fault. Compliance has made it spooky for them. And they don't have a whole lot to gain to talk about something they don't really know how to use. I don't blame them, but the epiphany is coming because somebody's gonna get hurt long-term and two neighbors are gonna talk and I got 400 grand more than you and we have the same setup, but you didn't understand this. We're trying to get ahead of that. History reverses real quick. 1961, it's born. I'm gonna skip Tom Selleck, save you that one. Great mustache though, you know that. 30 years, it's like your cell phone. It's been through a lot of iterations. In the 80s, it ended up coming under the purview of HUD and the FHA under Ronald Reagan, where it became insured. But they've made non-sparring spouse protection changes. They've limited how much you can pull out. And the biggest thing is that MIP. It really just makes it safe for everyone, including the investors on the secondary market. They want to move these products like you wouldn't believe, which is great. It opens up competition, right? One of the biggest changes going on through here is reverse for purchase. In 2009, they saw uptick of seniors purchased a forever home, wait 12 months, do a reverse. 2 closing costs. How do we make this one transaction? Everything's got to be for the benefit of the senior, so it keeps getting better, safer, okay?
So in a situation where somebody has no mortgage
and they want to take advantage of one of these reverse products, what's in a lump sum? Oh, wait, let me think here. So if they sold their house, the purchase, let's say they're 65, how much do they have to put down on that, on a reverse purchase?
What's the home that they're buying, the value of it?
60%.
Let's say 800.
About 600,000.
So
So they could put down 600,000.
they'd have
But they have to
200
do
equity.
60%, right? They have to put 60% down?
Yeah, it's ballpark
Yeah,
60,
ballpark
65.
And then
So
their
they, so
mortgage,
basically they have
They
40%
don't have
cash.
mortgage.
Yeah.
no, let's call it reverse for purchase.
That's
Reverse
reverse
for
Yeah,
purchase.
reverse for
Yes.
purchase.
Now, on just a, let's say they said, I don't want to sell, but I still want to take advantage and just do a reverse mortgage lump sum. What number could they lump sum on
I
that?
got you here. So what he's talking about is what I'm about to show you. This is- I have some very good-
I'm thinking about,
Coming in late
I'm thinking
with the
about for
savior.
me, because I don't know if I want to sell because I'm a bad realtor.
Let's talk real quick. I'm gonna jump into that exact scenario. The scenario is I own my home, I love my home, I live in my home, but I wanna take advantage of this asset and invest in other assets, maybe even bounce back and forth between them, like Florida or Arizona. I'm gonna spend most of my time here,
Buying another house.
but I have the freedom to bounce around, and how do I do that without
6 months in
overexposing me on a monthly basis? We're gonna talk about that in a minute, but let me cover some stuff on behalf of Dora. It's so important that you understand these things here. 62 and up for the FHA, 55 and up for the jumbo product. We gotta pay taxes, insure it, guys. Okay, maintain the property, pay HOA fees. Okay.
And that 60, that age is for the youngest borrower.
Youngest, well, no, and yes. You could be 18 and one could be 62. They just wouldn't be able to access much money because
Okay.
it's off of age. So sometimes we run those scenarios where somebody's 70, 62 and somebody's 60. Usually it makes sense to wait till they're both 62. I would tuck that away. Probably 80% of the time. Should wait till they're both 62. All right, gotta go through a HUD assessment, independent, third party. I call them a federal agent. They gotta sit down and beat up the quote she put together, make sure she's not ripping people off.
Heard
I
about
love
her.
that. I love that because I think every financial product should have that accountability. I mean, what would it hurt, right? I can tell you how many people in our industry back in the day that are no longer doing this. It's all fresh blood. All right. Non-recourse protects the heirs. All right. You go upside down, 100 grand on the home, but you've been in a 725 home, maybe shouldn't be in. You got a mortgage payment, pass away. You left $1 million in life insurance to the kids, but the home value's upside down. They can't go after the kids for that. The kids are protected. It's so safe. Once the kids understand this, they're like, spend your money, mom and dad, leave us life insurance. I'm not licensed to sell any life insurance, but.
Not yet, no, I'm just kidding.
Alexa, she is not. Non-recourse protection, that MIP is why this is worth every dime. I'll go toe to toe, and I know this space, and I'm getting prepared to try to challenge Dave Ramsey live on his podcast because he is anti.
No way. That's so
Wow. Yeah, Susie Orman.
Yeah.
Kim Fisher, they all got their opinion, but old Brian over here, I got facts. I got Dora, I got FHA, I got MIT. We're ready to go.
That's awesome.
It's just antiquated thinking not to look at 65% of your net worth and not use it strategically. We're just gonna ignore it, let it sit there.
Right.
Let's focus on this. It's
I
changed,
agree.
guys. It's changing. Non-recourse, real quick. Recourse loans are like, you know, you don't pay your motorcycle payment. They're gonna come take that bike, they're gonna wholesale it at a loss. They're gonna come after you for all the damages and all that sort of stuff. Just like a mortgage, okay? Non-recourse protects the borrower and the borrower's heirs. There aren't many products out there that have non-recourse protection. That MIP is one, I wanna shout it from the rooftops how beautiful the 2% is. Is it high? Probably, but it makes it safe for everyone. And what's the price of peace of mind for the family over 30 years?
2%.
That is the price, yeah.
There you go. I like it.
The price is
Welcome aboard. So guys, pretty simple here. The MIP, one more time, I'm gonna hit it. This is gonna protect regardless of the home's value. Makes the mandatory growth, can never be reduced or taken
Can
away.
you shop the MIP?
No. But you know what, if they privatize part of this, yeah, which Hawaii almost did. Interesting sub-story. No, it's 2%. There's legislation to drop it to 1.5%, but I can't imagine in this environment they're gonna turn down any income, if you know what I mean. So don't hold your breath. All right, no matter what happens to the home, it protects the investor too. They wanna trade this on the MBS market, right? On the secondary market, because it's safe, they know they're protected too. It's gotta work for everyone. All right. Can't have a HELOC, can't have a loan balance, it's gotta be in a first position. What are the obligations? Primary residence. That's typically where you get your mail. 6 months in a day, all right? You gotta maintain the home, you gotta pay your taxes, you gotta insure it, pay your HOA fees. You do those things, you're in charge. You're running the show. You have guaranteed housing until you no longer wanna be there and no longer can. When is repayment required? Choose to sell and move the home. That usually happens within 7 to 12 years. Sometimes it doesn't, right? A maturity event, that's a legal term, right? If somebody moves out of the house for more than 12 months, or if they pass away, or they no longer can or want to live there, right? If they stay out of the home for more than 12 months, this is, you're not gonna remember this, but this is why it's so critical you work with somebody who specializes in this. If we got a dad that passes away, now mom's alone, she's healthy, she's kicking, doing her thing. At some point, the knee goes or the hip or something, she's in and out. Now she's in and out with another issue that's caused by that other issue. Now she's out 4 months. When we talk to the kids, when we do this all powwow at closing with everyone that's there, tax people as well sometimes, right? One of the things we tell them is if she's out 6 months, contact us, because after 12 months, it can become due. Let's move her home for one night.
Yeah.
And reset the clock. There's so many tricks to this product here, so you can reset that multiple times. We've seen that. So, if you don't pay your taxes, ultimately they can get this called due. Horror stories back in the day. Grandma gets kicked out of home for 25-cent reverse mortgage, where you unpack, she didn't pay her taxes. But the person that was talking to her didn't tell her that she needed to set this aside. It's a customer service, it's a value that was missed, right? And people got hurt, so they've changed it to make it very clear. Attention fees, yeah. All right, HOA fees, pay those HOA fees, all right? Okay.
So, years ago, back when there was foreclosures everywhere,
yeah,
I listed for a couple banks, and I had one that was a foreclosure that from a reverse mortgage. So what scenario could that have been?
No taxes.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been taxes. I believe, like, in the rare situation where a home does go upside down in value, like, sometimes we'll get a call from somebody like up in the mountains. Dad's out a reverse mortgage in Beaker, you know, for 30 years, and it's upside down, 75,000. He's a handyman. He's like, I want to paint it. We'll get it on the market. And it's like, why would you even? You don't need to do anything. You're upside down, right? Just leave the keys. You can walk away. You're not responsible for anything. So when that happens, I believe it's a deed in lieu of foreclosure.
Okay.
So maybe that's what happened, but yeah, it's got to be one of those 5 days. Qualified property type, single family, attached townhomes, FHA approved condos, and then obviously we got some other solutions. Up to a 4-unit home. This is where this is going to explode down the road when people know how to buy a 4-unit complex and they're going to live in one. Short term, the others out. Yeah, this is to be unpacked thoroughly. New build or resale, okay. 2-family home, it's got to be owner occupied. We're going to talk about different scenarios there. Rural homes work as well. Sometimes we've got to move around some horse properties with the value to some degree, but.
What about single family with, what is it, the additional dwelling units?
Yes, that's a big piece of our market. Yeah, ADUs, additional dwelling units. Very, very interesting when you have no payment due. How about you were getting ready to do a kitchen remodel on a severely outdated home? I don't know, what's a kitchen remodel cost in $1 million home?
$150,000.
Yeah,
Right
maybe
now.
you're doing 2 bathrooms and a concrete floor. You blow through $150,000 real quick. So you just went from doing all the planning, getting all the quotes and everything, and when you go to kick off the project, your neighbor, right, has got a mortgage payment and all these additional down payment and all this stuff. And you're like shutting off your mortgage payment and paying them nothing out of pocket. It's quite interesting. Fast forward, you've done updates, reappraise the home. These get refinanced like other mortgages all the time. There might be more value there. There's interesting timing scenarios with that. Risks, though, there's no free rides. I've talked a lot about the good stuff. There's risks to this product. Want to be incredibly clear, like any product, right? So loan balance increases. If you're not making a payment, that loan balance is negatively amortizing, all right? As home is used, as equity in the home is used, there could be fewer real estate equity for the heirs, okay? So sometimes we run into scenarios very often where they want to give a, you all right? Yeah, yeah, okay. Getting nervous over here. Maybe it's a rodeo. But I think, I'm gonna set the speed anyway.
Still, Dave, what the hell's wrong?
Let's jump back in here. We gotta sometimes make sure our clients don't have any more than $2,000 in their account, right, for Medicaid reasons, okay? They can't have so many assets before they're using government programs, so they can have $250,000 in a line of credit, they just can't have it in their account. So we gotta be real smart about these things when we're going through the process, all right? This is not a transaction, this is a long-term
That was a
relationship.
question I was gonna have. So I'm thinking of one person in
Yeah.
particular who is on Medicaid but owns her home.
Yeah.
Will they, if you do this, do you lose your Medicaid benefits?
No, but we would want to make sure that she never pulls more than $2,000 out. If she pulls more than, she needs to make sure in any 30-day period.
There's no
okay,
more than
No
$2,000
more
in
than
her account.
$2,000 in there.
Okay.
And so she'd need to pull money out and spend it. Otherwise, just leave it in a line of credit. So
Okay.
we run into that quite often.
Okay.
Yep,
So
yep,
this
yep.
is qualifying.
Yeah.
To qualify?
You have to qualify, you have to be low income to qualify for this whole thing?
No.
No, they're talking about,
No, we're just saying sometimes we do work with people that are in
Okay.
destitute situations. They have government benefits.
Okay,
And they wipe out all your assets before you get it.
okay.
And if you got more than $2,000, they'll kick it off. So Holly will have a home, we're shutting off a mortgage payment, putting $250 in a line of credit, that's fine. That's a little loophole, they can't touch that, you can count it. If she needs money, she just pulls it out when she needs. We'll get
They
it
don't
careful.
count it as income.
Exactly. Exactly. You
Yeah.
get it here. Other risks, guys, there's costs to set this up, just like anything else, all right?
As long as they don't have.
Not everyone will qualify. Bankruptcy, certain things we'll talk about here in a moment that would keep you from qualifying. It's not appropriate for every borrower. 40 to 60% maybe of the people that qualify, this is the right solution, right? So it's not for everyone. Some people are under the illusion if you're qualified, you should do it. Doesn't necessarily mean that at all. What's the goal? What are we trying to achieve, right? Carry certain stigmas and misconceptions. We're almost ready to take this off because most people are kind of getting a better viewpoint. It's a little bit more mainstream. Everybody's going to start hearing it more from their advisors soon, which is going to be a very big deal. And the loan becomes due when it's no longer primary residence. Let's say mom and dad both pass away, hopefully not in a car accident. What happens? Well, the heirs, or the children usually, they are still in control of the title and all the equity in the home. They have 6 months to decide what they want to do with the home. Holly and anybody who's assigned to the account will help them file for another 6 months if they need it. It's a tough time. It's very emotional. Sometimes it's out of the blue. And sometimes they can both go quick out of the blue. Anyway, it's important that the children just kind of focus on the family at that point. And when they understand, listen, we don't have to make a decision now, that's a big deal. And up to a year with another extension, which is very easy to get, that wasn't always that way. In the 80s, it was like, you have 30 days. On some products, not all, but on some. So
How does that compare with like a regular mortgage?
with regards to how, same sort of framework, I believe it's an FHA benefit, same sort of framework under the FHA guidelines, yeah. The bank wants to sell the home, right? Sometimes it'll sit there longer than that. If it goes into probate, that's a whole other thing, that trumps everything. So having a will in place, you know, most people understand these things, but you'd be surprised. When we have these conversations, we're oftentimes bringing, maybe this house needs to be in a trust, you got a kid with disability, you need to set this up in a different way. So it kicks off a lot of conversations that it's a privilege to be a piece of helping them walk through. If you've had a foreclosure in the last 3 years, unresolved bankruptcy, unpaid taxes, imagine that, that's gonna disqualify you. Credit is usually, we're just interested to see if you're paying your bills. Because if you're not paying your bills, you might not pay your taxes. And we might need to set some money up aside to pay your taxes to protect you.
Yeah, can you do an escrow account with this to pay your taxes? Take it off
Yes,
the loan
yes, you
balance or
can.
whatever?
On this
Okay.
end, it's called a life expectancy set aside, yeah. So if we know she just needs to just not worry about this, or dad needs to just not worry about this, we can set money aside and just set it up for them. Yeah, great question. Different changes, many different changes, but restricting how much people are actually able to access has been a point of frustration for some people, but it makes perfect sense when you look at it. I've not been in the reverse mortgage space for many, many years, about half a decade now. It took me that long to become an expert. But the reason I'm bringing it up is I haven't seen anything that has more regulation change constantly than this product does. All right, 2017 changes. We're gonna strengthen it for future generations. It's one of the only products, one of the government-run products, I would say, that's actually solvent. We all know where Social Security's got some issues if we don't solve it. But Social Security, Medicaid, and the home, Medicare, excuse me, and the home equity conversion mortgage, that's the three-legged stool from the government to help citizens out. A lot of people don't know those three work in triplet, not in tandem. We know that the MIP and what it covers, we understand there's an ongoing MIP 5% that's being added into the loan, all right? The heirs got to pay that at the end. You guys know that. So we've been indexed in several different ways through the years, but ultimately the reason why it's quite fascinating, you jump into these nerdy little chat rooms that I get into with financial advisors. This is not, line of credit is not necessarily, you think it's equity access. Once it's set up, it's indexed to the SOFR rate ultimately. And what that means is it's not correlated to the housing value. So you just put yourself in a position where you have a non-correlated buffer asset, not attached to the stock market or housing value, and has guaranteed growth, can never be reduced. It's pretty significant. All right, some different changes here. If there's anything you want to chime in here, Holly, I'm just gonna let them kind of read on here.
This is a huge one for you guys because in a reverse purchase before 2023, you'd have to negotiate a net price. So if there was a concession that needed to be made, let's say you were buying a house for $400,000, you needed to replace the carpet for 10 grand, you'd have to negotiate a price for $390. That would have to be the contract price. Now they're allowing up to 6% of the home price as a concession. So you can actually do your jobs how you usually do your jobs on a reverse now.
What does that really mean?
Basically.
It means that they're becoming hip to you guys are on the front lines, and the easier it becomes for you guys, the more you guys are gonna start understanding how to wield the product. So I'm kind of proud that they're getting on board with that. All right, reverse mortgages. You can read the stats here, and I point over there because I want to make sure you understand an overwhelming majority of them are the FHA line of credit. An overwhelming majority of the FHA adjustable rate line of credit because it's the secret sauce with the growth.
And the lending loan limits are the same as just for regular purchase?
Yes, and sometimes it makes sense to do adjustable, and sometimes fixed on a purchase. There's a lot of nuance to it. We're starting to advise clients to consider opening line of credit on a purchase. Because once you open it up, it's opened up. Like you can put money from the IRA, pay down the balance and load that up. I mean, there's just so many options, so. Lots of options with a purchase. Fixed rate, adjustable rate. This is most attractive for people that are rate sensitive. I hate this term. I hate this. I don't hate many things. Because why are people rate sensitive? Because there's payments.
Yeah.
There's no payments due. Right. So now when you take that out and now it's just make the overall smartest decision, that's the game that we play on the back end. It's not always easy to communicate that, right? But you have to meet people where they are. That's the reality too. So sometimes you need to just respect where they're at and kind of move with that. On a purchase, sometimes it makes more sense, sometimes not. But you cannot do the line of credit, and that really is one of the biggest pieces of this, all right? No prepayment penalty. All payments are voluntary. I like that term, voluntary, because there might be times I want to keep a mortgage payment. Let's say I'm making a mortgage payment and it doesn't bother me. I'm 62 and my neighbor's over here doing the same thing. And I'm gonna do a reverse, set up the line of credit. We both just keep making a mortgage payment. That's an outrageous long-term impact, having a line of credit growing and just keep paying the mortgage balance down. That is a very strong strategy. You shagging me here?
I have a question though.
Yeah.
I have a listing right now. She has a reverse mortgage on it that has to be paid off. And there's plenty of equity, but at the same time, it's taking us a long time to get it sold. And they're kind of freaking out because she's in a retirement center.
Okay.
How long can she go when her house is on the market, before, because, you know, once she moves out?
12 months.
Yeah.
12 months.
So what happens, well,
You're the
it'll take
listing
12
agent?
months, but it could, because it's a condo and it's in one of those situations.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I mean, my advice is just continue to talk to the lender and let them know what's going on.
Okay.
And just be in constant communication with
Push
them.
them hard
Because
if they want
if they
it.
see the listings active, and maybe they might question the pricing, or, I mean, who knows, at what
Yeah.
point they might get involved. But
Yeah.
if you're constantly in contact with them and showing them what you're doing, then
Yeah.
that's all you can really do.
Luckily, we dropped it 45 grand and got an offer.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go, yeah.
But they're
They just
just
knocked
gonna
it
lose
off
a
their
bunch
books.
of money because of that stupid HOA.
I know.
Oh,
Yeah.
so evil.
Yes, yeah, don't get me going on
I know.
HOAs.
What's
plan.
the
Go ahead.
minimum amount you have to take out on it? You have to like borrow a certain amount, just like you would do on
The
a
minimum
HELOC?
balance on the,
Yeah.
yeah, $1,000.
Okay.
Yep. So you asked me a question earlier, and we're gonna jump into that scenario, but a smart person with a $20,000, closing costs, okay? And I'm not saying that you're not smart if you don't do this, but if they have liquidity, they should pay that balance at closing down to $1,000. And that's all that's negatively amortizing. That money is immediately rolled in top of the line of credit and is growing. Why would you ever keep the balance higher than you needed to?
Yep.
Right? Now, when you say reverse mortgage and you gotta bring 19 grand to the table, right, there's a lot to unpack with that, right? With people, but smart people know it's the net. Yeah, so you lost me on that. Just kidding. You know, exactly. Yeah. FHA oversight, non-recourse protection, this is completely government insured. Take with that whatever security you wanna take from that. All right? There's no time limit, right, on how long you stay in the home. It's guaranteed housing. That's a big deal. Psychologically, watching like this, and it happens like 2 or 3 months after they don't have a mortgage payment, and they call us up and they're like, "This is wild." You know, it's like, awesome. Who do you want to have over to the house? Talk about it. You know what I mean? HUD counseling, third party, independent, really designed to beat us up and make sure that we're pricing and moving things in their best interest. Love it, love it, love it. No federal funds, no taxes go in to make this safe. That's a big deal. So it's not leeching off of everyone else, all right? It's completely independent of that. All right. Now that MIP, listen, the protections for the consumer, that's our responsibility. You don't have to be a fiduciary, but you can act as if. That's how our team operates, right? And if you act as if a fiduciary, then understanding that it's got to make sense for the client, but it's also going to make sense for the investor and for the lender, because it's an ecosystem that's got to be win-win-win. That's how business works long-term. Myths versus facts. I'm going to lose my home, not as long as you follow the rules. Pay your insurance and your taxes, things of that nature, right? Maintain the home, HOA, you're in charge. You're in charge. They're going to force me to leave my home. You cannot be forced to leave as long as you follow those things.
Okay, I have a question.
Yep.
I think you helped a lady in Manitou where she was losing her home, she was in foreclosure, and there was no way to help her. We wanted to help her keep her house.
Yeah.
There was no way we could sell it because she was like a hoarder and stuff. Can they get a reverse mortgage? I mean, she only owed like 50 grand or something, but she was losing her house because of that. Would that be a hard thing for her to qualify if she has a bunch of equity?
It depends
It
on how
has
many
to be
mortgage payments she's
appraised.
Yeah, as long as there's enough equity there.
Yeah, it was
It's
like, it was like
possible.
4.
Isn't there a condition?
I think you helped them.
So, is this, your friend, is it Jennifer? What was her name?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was a Con Williams agent called me and asked me,
Yes.
can you please like give me advice? I went to the house and said, hook her up with Holly.
So we were able to do, what ended up happening is she sold that house and we did a reverse purchase for her, in
Beautiful.
Pueblo.
So the
we
agent was
did
able to
do-
sell it, get money.
Yes. And
Great.
we were able to do it because we proved her hardship. She had lost her husband, lost all of half of her income.
Okay.
And because of those special circumstances, we were able to get the reverse purchase
Nice.
and get her in a stable living
Nice.
home.
Okay,
So yes,
good.
we did do that. Yep.
Makes me
yep.
happy.
Wow. That's-
Because sometimes you just have a heart for people.
Yes.
You go and you're like, oh.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not always,
And that was a very hard loan to do.
I'm
We
sure.
got it done.
But we just had to help that poor
And it
lady.
was, yeah, and
We-
those are my favorite
She had a
ones.
gal, yeah, they are the best.
Yeah.
She had a gal from her BNI who had like a lost a business during COVID, massive tax bill. She had a mortgage payment, right? And then she also had this massive tax bill coming out, just destroying her retirement. She was on the verge of suicide. She approaches Holly, and it was like, I mean, it changed her life.
yeah.
We were able to pay off her tax burden, shut off her mortgage payment. She has guaranteed housing for the rest of her life. The weekend before, she was just hemorrhaging her entire savings account with no plan.
Wow, yeah, that's
And you see that,
exactly
and
right.
she was going off an edge, and psychologically, it was divine timing, I can tell you that.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna owe more than my home is worth. It's impossible. The heirs nor yourself are ever responsible for any upside down amount. All right, big deal. Once the heirs hear that, they're like, let's do what's best financially for everyone here, but let's understand that we're protected, okay? Some people think we gotta be free and clear. I do, events and things like that. I got a 10-foot table, I got 10 feet for them to say, my home's paid off, I don't need this. And I got a completely paradigm shift in 10 feet. Doesn't work, right? But if the home is paid off, right, that is one of the most beautiful scenarios to set up this buffer asset, right? Let it grow and then use it in a down market. Let your portfolio ride, all right? The lender's gonna push me to close. Nope, you're gonna go through a HUD counselor. And they're interesting critters. But they go right by the numbers, and that's what matters at the end of the day. Should give everybody peace of mind knowing that, whether it's a friend, family member, or client, right? R4P, let's talk. Anybody need a break? We're good. I'll lose track, so just let me know if somebody needs it.
Maybe at 2:30.
Okay.
And we'll 1 hour.
I don't have
So that's in
much,
29 minutes.
Perfect. New markets for you guys. Very few people know how to wield this. I can't tell you how many times we've heard somebody call in and they're like, I got somebody moving from Kansas here. They've got $250,000. They want me to find them something. They're not happy. I heard that there's something with this. How does this work? And we show them how to show them a $550,000 home or something like that, or a $500,000 home. And they had no idea the other agents knew how to work.
We did it for Jason Twitchell after our last Z class.
Yeah, that's
He had
right.
someone moving from California to Hollow Springs, and we did a reverse purchase through his
Awesome.
connection, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So they came over heavy with California cash, and they were able to keep 40% in their pocket, and they were like,
Wow.
Yeah.
They bought
Yeah.
a $3 million home.
I don't know if it was quite I would never encourage anybody to upsell, but it is interesting when you've got a budget for, 800,000. And then you ask a smart question because you're acting as if a fiduciary. If you only had to put down 600,000 and keep 200, would you want to know more about that? No payment due. When you ask that question, it's natural sometimes, depending on who it is, and you understand as a pro what they want. Maybe they do want to go up and look at the corner lot, because now their $100,000 budget just became $1 million budget. Right. So I'm not saying you should push people up, but some people, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for a way. So increase side-by-side sales, obviously. Good. You used to say commission. Now it says compensation. I love it. Sphere of influence. You want to talk to state attorneys. You want to talk to financial advisors, Medicare folks. I mean, do something well by somebody in this age group, and they will plug you into everybody. Right? You do something bad, they'll take out a newspaper on you if you do something wrong. But it's been incredible for agents that have kind of taken a niche focus on this and gotten involved with us, whether it's doing some different co-branding or things of that nature. It does open up the sphere. And they're all looking, as this becomes more popular at the estate planning level, they're all going to be looking for real estate agents to know how to wield this. So, tuck that away. You can be trusted resource, right? 60% down, no payment due. Seniors move for many reasons, all right? Inadequate floor plans, right? Home's too big. Yard work's a big deal, right? Home needs repair. right? Hopefully not that much. It's a fixer. But closer to family is the biggest thing. I'm sure a lot of you have heard this before, but imagine talking to people within your database when you see that they're qualified for this and saying, if I had a magic wand, John and Becky, interest rates were great, plenty of inventory, right? And financially it made sense, right? It doesn't right now, you got golden handcuffs, and then you got 3%, I get it. But if you could move, and it did make sense, where would you go if you had a magic wand? They'll tell you, friends and family. Friends and family. And when you can get them to see that the 3% rate they have is handcuffs, only because they're choosing to keep the handcuffs on, they've got other options. It's powerful, but it's move close to family is the biggest thing. Magic wand, oh, you put that in for me. You're awesome. Yeah. Love it. So let's take a real quick, let's do A/B test, okay? We're gonna look at an all cash purchase, 70-year-old. All right, they're gonna sell their current home for $875. All right, so they're gonna net about $813. Step 2, they're gonna buy a $625 home. All right, goals, no payments. Then they're gonna do all cash. In this scenario, client keeps about $188,000 in their pocket. This is like status quo, what happens every single day in this demographic, all right? You guys are able to just scratch on the back of a napkin, I'm just kidding. But maybe have a little print from Holly that doesn't say anything more than, hey, here's an option you might want to consider. Here's a reverse for purchase. You're going to sell your current home situation. You're going to net $813, all right? But the difference is, and you guys can read as well as I can, your client keeps $400,000 in their pocket.
Yeah. Drop the mic.
How do they? It's, I mean, that's the end of the 2-hour class right there.
And they get to live in their new home.
I'm not
I got
saying-
somebody for that right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call as soon as I'm out here.
Yeah. Just don't say reverse mortgage. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, reverse mortgage.
It really is. It sounds funny, but it is. It's a home equity conversion mortgage, and just introduce. And we got a couple links, and I see it spinning. You guys are getting this here. All right. So here's the baby giraffe. Everybody take out their phone, because this will be your cheat sheet later when you're like, how does this work really? So if they had this, how much would they really? This is a rudimentary grid where I can show you, hey, and I'll click back here, but boom, I'm 72, I want to buy a 750 home. What do I got to put down? Okay. We send you all these slides, but this will probably end up, if you're like Rob, I don't know if you've done this yet, but downloaded the app and had all this in here. We don't have that yet, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
we're getting there.
Yeah.
But half our calls are agents or kids calling in just saying, hey, can you run numbers for me? I just need numbers. And it takes her about 15 minutes to give you numbers. There's a lot more to explain than just numbers, but sometimes you gotta start there to see if it kind of is even worth talking about. All right?
He texted me that picture, so.
So let's talk about different scenarios, all right? How about buying a bigger home? 40% of people are upgrading. Not everybody's downsizing. All right, we got some empty nesters here. Price of their new home's 1.15. They're gonna sell their current home $850. All right. We know they're gonna net, after net proceeds come out, they're short about $359. Right? No big deal. They got solutions. They have a portfolio. They went and spoke to their advisors, and they said, hey, because of a lot of the penalties going on, the seasonality, and here's our plan long term. This does not line up. It would be devastating. But there's some other options. Remember, we do this for advisors as well, as estate attorneys and things of that nature. They'd seen one of our classes, and what we were able to show them is how they were able to keep from cannibalizing their portfolio and get into this home. Let's talk about their scenario here. Price of the new home, 1.15. All right, they're gonna net 790. All right. Holly says they only got to put down 758. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and let them have a brand new fridge and no payment, and they can move in and not touch their accounts.
It's a nice fridge.
Yeah. Nice home. Tariffs are compounded. Yeah. No payment required. It's called cash outlay. That's the financial word for it. What's your cash outlay per month? When you don't have a cash outlay of mortgage payment going out per month, that changes the game. All right. So let's do A/B test, right? Apples to apples comparison, if you will. Attempt at a cash purchase.
And you can see the contrasting difference here. Let you guys read that. It's a fascinating tool. So misunderstood. It's so interesting. In the next 72 months, you guys will be like, oh, everybody knows about this.
So one of the questions when I was talking to somebody about this, they said, well, how does the bank make any money by doing this?
Yeah. So the bank knows there's a guaranteed return on investment within a certain time frame. You're not going to live to 150. So they know within X amount of years they're going to get a return. Homes are very good to invest in. They understand there's going to be amortization. Plus they've got the negative amortization. So if somebody really wanted to leverage it, you know, they could really run up the balance pretty high, right? That MIP is always there. They're always safe and protected no matter what. So it makes it really attractive for them. Yeah. Here's the better question, if you don't mind me phrasing it that way. How is this sustainable 50 years from now with everybody living longer if we got 62-year-olds living in their homes for 40 years or 30 years? There's no inventory already. So, you know, as an advocate for this industry, I am looking at that long term and saying, are they going to raise the age at some point? And probably will, is my guess. I don't know if that was a better question, but
Yeah, that was a good question.
it was more interesting.
Yeah, very good. Now, we know wheels are going, wait a minute, wait a minute.
I hope Social Security lasts till 175.
Well, if it doesn't, we're in the right space. That's what I assure you. Gerald and Sharon, 70 years old, still active, still working. They're not retired yet, but they do want to retire at some point on a golf course. These are case studies that we've run personally here, right? Current home value is about $925. They still owe $100,000. All right. Monthly payment's about $2,200, and they got about $100,000 in savings. One of the agents have seen our class, and they're listing a property on a golf course. Right? Sometimes opportunities pop up. It's a window of opportunity because timing is everything. So understanding this from a leveraging position is quite fascinating. Purchase price of this home is $700,000. They've already got some friends on the property. They love it. Okay, it's a little too far for their commute though because they're still working. All right, how do we make this work? You guys call it Twitchell. Twitchell's going to run some numbers for you. You can do a cash out refi or some type of HELOC. This is what we are talking about earlier, right? I own my home. How do I leverage this to get another home? All right, I think that's where you're going earlier. Right? We understand the costs associated with the HELOC. We also understand how much we're going to need to put down. All right, I think it's 20 points on this one. They're shy about 90K. It starts to look like this is kind of a pipe dream, maybe not a real smart move. But there is one other option. Not sure if it's of interest to them or not. But they should be aware of. If they can sell their current home, their current home value of $925. They got a $100,000 balance left. Okay, we're going to do a reverse on this home that they live in. Shut off the mortgage payment, pay off the mortgage balance. Okay, they're going to be able to access $225,000 and have no payment. They're going to take that money, all right, specifically the monthly mortgage payment, which was about $2,200 if you recall. That no longer exists. So that money's going to be redirected. Let's talk about this really quickly, how this works. Price of the new home $700,000. They're going to put 20% down, $140,000. They pulled that out of their reverse mortgage, their primary home, right? They've got some left in savings after we run all the math, but they're able, for about $1,000 more cash outlay on a monthly basis, they now own 2 homes. Should everyone do this? No. Should he? Probably. I don't know. What are your goals? You find the right home though, it's all about timing.
Right.
You know what I mean? How quick can these turn around, Holly? If somebody's got a property they want to move on, it's quick.
Fastest one we've done 17 days.
Yeah.
From
yeah.
counseling to close.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And it's just
But
about
I would
knowing
say
action.
6 to 8.
Sometimes it's 2 years. We've got clients that we nurture and work like working with them, like timing wise, when does it make sense? So sometimes it takes longer. So in this scenario, they're able to get 2 homes with the 1 mortgage payment. You guys can unpack this here. The A/B test between the 2 of them here.
That was just pure money. That's not renting it out.
Nope.
It's just, I can stay in the new house 6 months and 1 day.
Yep.
I've got a reverse on it.
Yeah.
Or do I have to stay, which house do I have to
So
stay?
you reversed your primary home, so I'm gonna stay here
reversed
6
the
months.
primary home, right.
I'm probably gonna spend weekends or every other weekend, it sounds
Right.
like, out there.
Then what happens? At some point, they retire. What are they gonna do then?
Spend a day there per year.
They're probably gonna move into the golf course home.
Refinance.
They're gonna sell their other home, and they're gonna reverse the golf course home, shut off the mortgage payment, move it. I mean, it sounds like a pretty good plan. So what happens next week when you retire? Well, we're gonna go move into the golf course home, and I'm gonna shut all my mortgage payments off. So what are you guys doing next weekend? It's like, questions, comments, great divorce. How many of you have had the exquisite pleasure of walking dear friends through a divorce as a real estate expert? Anybody go through that? Super fun. Super fun. Especially if you care about both of them. This is a very serious, customer service announcement here. You can be that solution that keeps the attorneys from taking all the money. Let me explain how. In Colorado, everything is split 50-50, okay? And so let's talk about a real life scenario. We've seen Jeff and Marianne, they're divorcing after 40 years. They're both same age 67. They got a home value of $625, okay? It's paid off. They have an investment account of about $425, overall net worth about $1 million. 50-50 split, they each get about $525, all right? The judge is gonna order everything to be split. Takes time to sell a home, all the nuance with that. Who's gonna stay in the home, who's gonna keep the home, what does that look like? The attorneys keep getting paid, right? You guys can show them how, because Marianne specifically, and oftentimes it is mom and the wife, she wants to keep the home. There's a lot of them, sometimes emotion involved with it, right? Different takes of the heights of the kids. It's quite common, mom wants to keep the home, all right? So what we're able to do in this scenario here, she's able to do a reverse, take him off title. Home is 100% her ownership. She has no mortgage payment due. And the amount of money she's able to pull out, she's able to combine it with some other assets that she has to get his full buyout. You guys tracking me here? Yep. All right. Then you're gonna show him how Jeff can do his thing, right? So Marianne's going to do a reverse mortgage on the property that they lived in. He's gonna move out, she's gonna take over the home entirely, shut off the mortgage payment, pull out $203,000, all right? She's gonna add some money from her savings to get to his total buyout of the home. So what does the judge want? The judge wants that home sold, asset split. He needs $312,500 from the home. Well, she just was able to do that without having to sell the home, right? Big deal, big deal. She's gonna add the accounts together to get his total. You could see what she has left. So she's got a growing line of credit. It's modest, but she's got something set up. The biggest thing is no payments. Now Jeff, all of a sudden, he decides to learn to cook. Sometimes it's
I say if he learned to cook when they were married.
This would have never happened.
I get to deal with this the whole drive.
It looks like he's following a recipe online right now.
Yeah.
We can do this because we're married.
If you only would have cooked when they were married, maybe they'd still be married.
It is real life though, man. It's quite funny. He's gonna buy a home that fits his passions, right? Because he's got $525. He's gonna do a reverse or purchase. He's only gotta put down $419. He's got no mortgage payment, so he's got a little something to start building his retirement. Track this with me. We're gonna split everything up. They each get $525. She's gonna do a reverse. Stay in her home that she wants to, start rebuilding her life. Peace of mind of no mortgage payment moving forward. It's going to get the attorneys from dragging this on and continuing to collect money because they can split up these assets much faster. I cannot tell you. This can be hundreds of thousands of dollars in difference sometimes, depending on who you're talking to. He's going to go on with his life. All right, big deal. Questions? Multi-generational living. If you stare at this long enough, you realize that white people don't want to live together. No, I'm just kidding. This is broke down by ethnicity, all right? And some ethnicities are more open to multi-generational living, and I'm telling you, it's going to become far more common in the future. The numbers are just pointing towards it. So let's talk about this, all right? 11+ million Americans are caring for an adult family member and doing school drop-off, right? We call it that sandwich generation, right? It's tough. Sometimes not only are they giving up lifestyle, but sometimes it can be an additional cost burden that has this perpetuating effect of impacting their retirement incomes. And it becomes this long-term effect. However, I grew up in a multi-generational household, and I can tell you from a familial standpoint, there's a lot of advantages sometimes, depending on the family and how healthy they are, right? Sometimes it's not. It's gotta be a unique family, but I'm talking sandwich generation. Watch this. How many of you guys have seen people, they wanna maybe add a bedroom to a house or something like that, and move mom and dad in? It's very expensive. New builds are typically the best way to go. I know we know a little bit about some of the patio homes down here, and maybe not for multi-generational living, but this is Lennar's, what is this?
Next gen.
They're next-gen homes. These are, anybody seen these? They're massive. Some of these are further up north, obviously. But this is huge master for mom and dad. Some of these are multi-million-dollar homes. Our price listings are a little off here. But what's fascinating about this theory of how to work this is, imagine this for a moment. Price is $755, and this home's actually closer to $1 million now. But let's use $755 for a $1 down payment. Mom and dad, it's a unique family where they get along with the kids and they all want to live together. It's got to be unique, I get it. But imagine if all the family could benefit from not having a mortgage payment. So watch this. We're going to put $478 down. We're going to sell typically the parents' home to get those funds. We're going to put them on title. It's a reverse mortgage in their name. All right, it's their home. All right, there's no payments required. Imagine that monthly mortgage payment that sandwich family's making is going right into their IRA, right in their portfolio. Imagine what that does long-term for them. What happens ultimately, mom and dad are no longer there or want to be there or they've passed away. Well, they've got 12 months. Figure out if they want to keep the home or do we want to sell the home and get something more appropriate, all right? They remaining 100% control of everything, okay?
Let's take a break.
Take a break.
And then we probably get done early too.
Oh, good, that's
10-minute
good.
break.
I want to be very
Yeah,
respectful.
yeah,
3 hours is a long time, so we're wrapping it
Probably
in.
got about 20 minutes left.
Pro in your space, but you can't.
Well, you're also the kid.
And you're the daughter.
I'm the
yeah.
kid.
It's like,
That's
it's
the
like
problem.
Jesus in his hometown, nobody believed it.
About her to what, is she pretty, and this is, I talk differently with Tim
that
than I do with
carpenter's
clients
kid?
sometimes, but it sounds like she's smart, but she's
Oh,
got
yeah.
a belief system, which is actually really strong. That generation put us in some great
Yes.
spots because of that thinking, so let's reward that and recognize for that beauty. But that's why this treasure is available for them. And just understanding it, you're never gonna be the one, have her come to a class with us. Maybe not, maybe not 3 hours.
That was a good for Sharon.
Allegedly, yeah.
Consider
Maybe she comes to a class, a
Yeah.
2-hour class that we host or something, or there's a link we could send her. It's a dance.
$1 million house.
Yeah, I just told her, I was like, I just want you to learn about it. And I was like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Okay, I get it, that's fine. But
At some
at least
point,
know what your
the
options.
kids start telling the parents what to do, so
Yeah.
you're just not old enough yet. A few more years, you're gonna be telling them what to
Yeah.
do.
But a different hat coming in and just saying, hey, how would it feel to be able to live closer to your grandchildren and not have a payment due? Because that's really what we're trying to achieve. So let's look at a couple different ways to do that. And you know what, you just tell me what you think makes sense.
That's a deal
And
killer
that's-
for my mom.
It's
Get a little closer to your grandchildren. Oh, never mind.
I could go the other way. Sometimes they want to move away. I've seen it move away too. Yeah. Our house is too big. We were empty nesters, but they're over all the time, and we're looking for something on the western slope.
Can we do this loan in Ecuador?
I want to jump in real quick on a couple proprietary products. I remember this is a door class, so I do have to follow some of this here and get this out. How many of you working with $4 million homes right now, right? It's going to pop up. It's not going to be that far down the road. In this scenario here, we got somebody age 66, one-time cash value they got to put down on this home of $4 million is 2.6. I'm not going to jump much more into this. The interest rates are really high. Okay, long-term the costs are very high. So sometimes there's solutions, but we use this FHA product mostly for condo get-arounds, okay? But let me kind of go through this here. Referrals. We're done with scenarios. If you guys are wanting to get in touch with senior centers, we've done some trade shows together like that. The Senior Expo, man, that was effective, and they're looking for answers, whether they know they have a problem or not sometimes. So let's talk about referrals. Let's say you guys are hired to sell a home. All right, we see this all the time. You quickly realize that a sad client's going to be a pretty angry client. They don't have much to put down. All right, kind of scenario we're looking at a little bit. Exactly right. That doesn't look like your mom, does it?
No.
It'd be a trip if it did, right? Yeah. So anyway, you guys suggest it, right? And it shows them a way that they can turn some of that equity on. So let's talk about that. When you do something good, you're going to be heroes. Let's talk about securing listings.
you understand how this works taking on a listing or being able to show the different options. Let's look at Velda here and Mario. When you're preparing your net proceeds sheets, you can see real quick they're gonna net about 276, it looks like. All right. Not the best option. Maybe not everybody's gonna be very excited about that. I don't see your mom liking that. No. But literally because you just went through one of these classes, right? We can show you guys how you probably pop into something like this. And it's just a really simple conversation of, hey, I don't know exactly how this works, but if you could, would you want to know more? Let me introduce you to Holly. I promise she's not very scary in person. Sit down, have coffee, usually at the kitchen table, and bring the family together. And it's an ongoing thing. We've got some links we can send if they're more tech savvy. But there's a paradigm shift because it's got bad reputation, so. But that's why we're pros, right? This is kind of recapping everything we spoke about a little bit earlier. Holly, anything you want to add here specifically? I'm letting them just kind of read.
Any products for like a new build?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Is it more of a refi the construction loan or?
No, it's
like
like
if it's a custom,
reverse for purchase.
Even if it's a custom builder or the guy.
If you're doing a construction loan, then yeah, we'd refinance
Do a
it
refi.
once the home is done and we get an appraisal on it, because we have to have that for the loan, yeah.
Yep.
But
if
I've
you're-
done new builds for developers like D.R.
Yeah.
Horton and worked with them, so.
Is there anything coming down the line for like a one-time close construction loan to this or no?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
No. Good questions though. Marketing to seniors. Hey, if you're serious about this space, if you've seen kind of a light in it, either from a business perspective or from a family perspective, we've got different ways to help you look like a pro. Your most important thing is here, and I look around this room at everybody's eyes, is you're not gonna talk about this if you don't sound like a pro. You're never gonna be a pro in this. So just understanding if you could benefit, here's the benefit, not the feature. That's reverse mortgage. Well, what's the benefit? If you could live closer to the kids and stay in a little nicer place and have no payment, would you want to know more about that? Let me introduce Holly. And then we sit down and we have an elegant way of presenting it, okay? Host a CE class. Rob, we've done this a few times. The gears are clicking. This is long-term, guys. We're in this for the long haul. They chose, I'm no longer a piece of bingo because I'm with Granite Bank, right? But they chose bingo for a reason. It's because 5 years down the road, this is going to be so mainstream. I mean, name another reverse mortgage company. Anybody name one?
No.
It's really interesting. Yeah. So 4 years ago.
Fonzie? Fonzie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few of them, yeah. He does gold too, yeah. They're good. That's awesome. So what are you guys gonna do differently? Knowledge is power. I ask my financial advisors when I'm talking to them, I say, hey, how many of you in here are either a fiduciary or act as if you are one? And a fiduciary, if you don't know, is somebody who is an expert in their space. And they're always required to do what's in the best interest of their client. And so when I ask financial advisors, how many of you are incorporating? At age 62, immediately you're considering the line of credit and just let it grow. How many of you are incorporating this strategy right now? And there'll be one or two hands that go up. And I tell them, the rest of you, guess what you're not? A fiduciary, because you don't understand how this works. Don't take it from me though, there's studies out there, there's all sorts of information. But what have you guys taken from this? What sort of, let's go around robin real quick and then we can wrap it up. What have you taken?
If you're older, you have more options.
Bingo. That is, I can't help it.
I'm just-
On behalf of Granite Bank.
Yeah, I'm worried they're gonna change up the age by the time I'm old enough.
I think for the older person, they're not in a golden handcuff anymore. They can downsize or upsize or something and
Be where they wanna be.
be better off instead of paying more, you know? Yep.
Are they gonna lower the age? Why not make it available for everyone?
Because there's no money for the investors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We live too long.
No payment ever, starting at age 25.
We had a guy named Thor that was an agent. He married an older woman. She barely had a reverse. And he's been able, how much younger was Thor? 13 years?
She was
17?
62 and he was
He's 12.
55. So
Age, so he's,
7 years.
since he married her, he hasn't had a mortgage payment. And the age he was
There
at,
you
he's
go.
like, we just took that mortgage payment, we just bought 2 other houses. And he's like, yeah, she'll probably pass away ahead of me. He was kind of funny that way, you know, about
Yeah.
like, he's kind of a young guy. But he's got guaranteed a place to stay. All his assets can be ported towards other things. And he gets to stay there as long as he wants. So it is kind of funny little scenarios like that. Thanks, guys. I'm Brian again. That's Holly. You guys are awesome. You kind of you're clicking, you're getting this. If you have questions, reach out. We'd love to be that touch for you. Even absolutely. And I'll give you Holly's card. She's gonna be the primary contact. Thank you very
You already have that. So.